We are more.
We are more when we work together.
We are more when we empower each other, when we care about each other.
We are more cuando trabajamos juntas.
We are more when we collaborate.
We are more powerful than we realize when we work together, when we support each other, when we lift each other up, when we are there for one another, when we create together, when we build together, when we solve problems together. We are more.
We are amazing.
We are warriors.
We are agents of change, community builders. We are brilliant and incredibly innovative. We are more when we lift each other up.
We are unstoppable.
We are Latinas in Web3.
We are poderosas.
We are more when we celebrate each other's differences.
We are more cuando incluimos todas las voces.
We are making history.
We are more when we come together.
Nope, Sandra, you're on mute.
Sorry about that.
It happens. We're
It
good.
happens. Yay. Welcome. This is so exciting. Welcome, everybody. I love seeing where everybody's from in the chat. So this is great. For those of you that don't know, my name is Sandra Noemi Torres. I'm the founder and CEO of United Latinas, and I'm here to welcome you to We Are More, our Hispanic Heritage Month conference for 2022. This is an exciting day, and it will be a half day full of powerful conversations and topics highlighting progress and also motivating new progress, right? When we think about Hispanic Heritage Month, it's about a couple things, right? It's about honoring who we are. It also means ensuring that we continue to put in place a vision for the future. So our people have to evolve. I think that we can all agree on this, right? We have to learn how to honor culture while honoring our responsibility to the things that matter, right? Of our destiny, and to be leaders ultimately. So who are we? And how do we evolve and tap into our fullest potential? How do we continue evolution without leaving our Latinidad, our culture? How do we lead from the heart while leading from the boardroom? How do we handle situations with confidence and with empathy? How do we stand up for the things that matter without losing what matters? And that is why our continuous support of one another is important. And I'm so happy to welcome all of you here today. This is an exciting time. We are, as many of you know, 60 million strong in the United States. And yet we are still operating in our own independent silos, independent of one another. So let's change that. Let's commit to changing that. And I want to invite all of you listening in right now to become part of United Latinas, because your message, your voice, your ness is needed. So before we begin and showcase our amazing lineup of speakers, I want to acknowledge our ancestors, right? Thank them for the kindness and the empathy that they have instilled in us. And I want to thank them also for that warrior spirit that all of us possess, that fighting spirit that has brought us here today. And thank you to our speakers who made time to be here today to share a very powerful message with us and with all of you. And thank you to the event committee that helped put this event together. I am certain that many of you will enjoy this event. If you have not already done so in the chat, please put where you're joining us from, what city, state, and also your LinkedIn link so we can connect, so we can start building relationships and we can come together. So with that introduction, I am now going to pass the mic over to Ileana, who will introduce our keynote speaker. Hope you guys enjoy
Thank
the
you,
show.
Sandra. Yes, thank you, Sandra. I'm Ileana Rojas. I'm co-president for United Latinas, partner in crime with Sandra on bringing all of this event together. And I'm just so excited to be here. United Latinas, our mission is to advance and the forward movement of Hispanic women in leadership. And that is what this event is all about, right? It's to bringing empowerment, amplifying voices, and connecting with each other, because in the end, we are more when you do this together. So I'm so excited about our extraordinary lineup of speakers today. And I want to kick it off with Ana Valdez, who is the CEO of the Latino Donor Collaborative, to help us kick off this event. And I'm trying to start the video. Ana, are you here? Yay! I know we were like struggling. You're on mute.
Oh my God, I'm so sorry. I'm actually going to, so first of all, I'm so honored to be here. And it is so funny because I'm going to share a little bit of the circumstances of the way I am here today. I get to the office all ready for this. I'm wired. I'm so excited about talking to all Latinas. And this is, I do a lot of this kind of speaking engagements through the Hispanic Heritage Month and through the year. But this is like my favorite I've been looking for because it's Latinas, right? I'm so excited. And I get to the office and there's a huge IT problem with the whole floor. And I'm like, okay, it'll be fine. I get there at 8 thinking that it's going to be fine. And then closer to 9, I'm in Los Angeles. I realize that it's not going to be fixed soon. So I'm actually driving home to take this commitment from home. So bear with me. And I'm on the phone again, and I'm driving.
Don't worry. Then we can let you drive because safety first. And we'll jump right in with our panel, with our rising to the top panel, and then we'll come back to you because I want to make sure that you are safe.
Thank you so much. And again, my apologies to you, Ileana, to everybody in the organization, and then of course with the audience. This has never happened. I was thinking that maybe it's a message for us Latinas that want to do everything. So anyway, but yes, I look forward to seeing you in a bit. Thank you.
No worries, no worries. Okay, then we'll kick it off. Let me start the videos here. With our panel rising to the top. Thank you so much. I'm so excited on this panel. We have here Raquel Tamés, who's the Chief Inclusion Engagement Officer for Charles River Associate. Thank you so much for being here. And Graciela Graciela or Yvonne? Because I know you one way, but I now don't know.
Let's say in the US has been mainly Graciela, Ileana. Okay. But you know me from many years. So
yes, Graciela Monteagudo, who's independent board director for iHeartMedia, for WD-40, and for ACCO Brands, and she's also the past president and CEO of Lala here in the U.S. And for many other things, you both have had such an incredible career as Latinas and a journey, rising to the top, which I know has been not an easy one, but you've definitely accomplished a lot. But I would love to, start just this conversation, make it more like a conversation, because I think that's what makes things, very rich. I always have heard, and I completely agree, that to lead others, we need to lead ourselves first. And it's critically important, especially as we get to those moments of, getting to those leadership positions, to remember that and to remind us that that is very important. And that seems to be a challenge for many leaders, that along the way, they lose their authenticity on who they are or who they were, and they start stepping into who they're supposed to be or who they feel pressured to be. And especially amongst women and Latinas, that, you know, for a lot of different reasons, we feel that we need to adapt and be somebody that we're not, but we think that that's what's expected of us to be able to then rise to the top. So I would love to hear, you know, from you, Raquel, starting in terms of how have you experienced this? And how have you been able to remain authentic, if you've been able, or what challenges you faced along the way?
Sure. So thank you very much. I'm really excited to be here and to see all these amazing women from all different parts of the country and different parts of the world. I'm grateful and honored to have been asked to speak today, and I'm really looking forward to the conversation. With respect to my leadership journey that coincides with my career, and how my authenticity has been grounded, or how has it changed? Has it changed? I think it's a really thought-provocative question. And I will start by saying that I've evolved as a human being and as a woman. And I'd like to think that even since I was a little girl, I've always been very introspective, very serious. And I'm actually an introvert, and a lot of people are surprised when I say that, but I am. I do need my downtime and time to think and process what's going on. But very early on, just self-aware. And because I grew up in a really tough neighborhood, a poor neighborhood. I'm the youngest of 6. My parents are immigrants. My father was a migrant farm worker, but they worked really hard and made lots of sacrifices to send me to really good schools. So I always saw what the other half had. And you would think that I would have felt less, but it really inspired me and motivated me to think that I could be that and more, and I can do just as good, if not better. So that was my motivation. And early on, education was what I wanted to pursue, because I felt like if I wanted to get out of the barrio, I needed to educate myself and be able to take care of myself. And that's always been, you know, front of mind for me, something that I've worked all my life. And so when you think about leadership, you know, leading self and leading others, my leadership style has evolved. You know, as a young lawyer with no direct reports, I had to lead myself. I had to lead my career. But then as I moved along in my career and started growing teams, it was really about how am I motivating and inspiring them. So I would say that my leadership style is a situational one. Really, it really depends on what's going on. Sometimes there's, you know, the crap has hit the fan, and you need to do, you know, command and control, right? And command and control is not an ideal leadership for long periods of time where you're, you know, commanding people. But sometimes you have to do that. Then there's transformational leadership. And I'd like to think that that's where I'm at, where I'm looking around, looking at others and trying to figure out how do I play into the strengths of my direct reports, other people that I work with, women in my network and in my life. And all through that, I have always been thoughtful and introspective about who I am. And for me, authenticity is more about being genuine, being who I claim to be, being who I say I am. And what are my convictions? What are my values? And being grounded in my values. Because it is important when you're in a workplace to understand what's going on in a room with a group of people, on your team, in your department, at your company, and come to understand what the rules of engagement are, the written rules of engagement, as well as the unwritten rules of engagement. And so you do have to adapt, but always be grounded in your values. For me, integrity is my #1 value, doing the right thing at all times, even when no one is watching. And so who I am has evolved, and my leadership style has evolved, but it's always about being introspective and knowing what my values are.
I think that you mentioned something that's critically important about the values, and not only about recognizing the values of ourselves, but then aligning them with the values of the organizations that we're in, or the teams that we're in, or the leadership that we're in, so that then everything sort of, you know, becomes authentic in itself because it's aligned with that purpose, with what's important. When it's not, then that's where discrepancy happens, and people notice that. So I think it's extremely valuable what you share. Yvonne, in your case, you know, and we've known each other for I don't know how many years, but it's been many
Decades.
years, decades. Yes, absolutely. And I know that, you know, you've always remained very, even though your leadership style, I know, has also evolved, you've also remained like true to your values. But I would love to hear from you, if, you know, all these other pressures, and especially changing countries, shifting cultures, how have you been able to like manage and tackle those?
Definitely, in situational leadership. If the audience, you don't know what the situational leadership model is, I strongly recommend that you Google that and learn about it. It's an amazing model that helps you adapt. My view on authenticity is a pragmatic one. Ileana, I believe that extremes are not good in general, if overall, and the midpoint tends to be the right place to be. So that means adapting. Now, I don't think that you can fake it. People see through you. If you're trying to be somebody that you're not, people are going to read that. But that doesn't mean that you can, you know, just be yourself and then assume that everything else is going to work. Because let's say if I wake up one morning in a bad mood and I am very authentic in my bad mood and go and scream at people who work for me, it's not going to be good. So I think it has to be a combination of being true to yourself, of your values, as was mentioned, and then adapting in a way. Examples that I can give you. Well, I was fortunate to start my career at Procter & Gamble and in Mexico, which is a very machista country. P&G was an oasis. You and I, we were there. It was a great place to be. But later on in my career, I worked for Walmart in Mexico. And Walmart in Mexico was still a combination of the Mexican culture with the American influence. Tough place. Retail is a tough business. It was a tough culture. And when I went there, I adapted myself to the place. I was coming from zero background in retail. I was head of big CPG businesses, but now I was at Walmart and I was going to run a $1 billion retail banner. And I had to gain respect. So I would say I adapted in what way? Even starting in the way that I looked. You know, I was wearing pantsuits. I was not wearing, you know, skirts. It was a tough place. I had my hair up, okay? And I was trying to portray an image of authority because I needed to gain the respect of these very tough people that really were good at their jobs. And I was coming from a different industry that knew they could assume this woman knows nothing about this. So I really tried to blend in with what was considered a leader in that tough machista culture, which was not a very feminine kind of image, right? But after I gained their respect and I was able to show them how I could contribute, and I got my direct reports to appreciate my perspective, then I relaxed, you know, and started being more myself. They even told me, "Oh, you are so nice now." Like, I am nice, but it's just that at the beginning, I really felt that I needed to prioritize adaptation over just being myself. I'm sure if I had just come in the first day and said, okay, here I am, I'm myself, and you people adapt to me, that was not going to work. So I think you have to be in the right environment. That's what I would say. I think overall in all these things, I really try to focus in what I can control. And what I can control is myself. So I try to be better. I try to train myself. I try to understand what abilities do I need to improve so that I can be some more successful. And then your environment, because I do believe that you choose where you work. And if your authentic self doesn't fit with the place in which you are, then I think you're better off changing that place, because they are not going to change, and it's going to be really tough if the distance is big. If you can manage that distance and adapt and be gain their respect and be successful, I think success gives you a lot of license to be yourself. I think it's really tough to be yourself when you're failing in a certain environment, and it may not even be your fault, right? It may be that environment. So I really would say, improve yourself, be your best, and make sure that you work in a place that appreciates that authentic self of you.
What I would add, Graciela, and I agree with you, it's looking around and trying to understand what the environment is. And there are going to be times when the environment, no matter where you are, is a tough environment because of we're in a very dynamic world, and lots of things coming at us very fast and furious. And so there are tough environments, but trying to figure out how to navigate that environment, which is where mentors and career sponsors really come into play, to help you understand and figure out what those written rules of engagement are and the unwritten rules of engagement. And I like the idea of adapting when you need to. For me, it's a balance between emotional intelligence, which is you are aware of yourself, and social intelligence, you are aware of others. And it's really, again, understanding who's on your team, because they want to be their authentic selves too. And so how are you going to work with all of these other individuals who want to be their authentic selves? And then there is the culture of an organization, and cultures are there, and it takes time to evolve those cultures. So if you're in a culture that's toxic, I think you have to make a decision if you're going to try and be successful in a toxic environment, or if you're going to try and influence that toxic environment, or if you are going to remove yourself from that toxic environment. But it really is, in my mind, again, the term authentic is not my favorite for lots of reasons, and probably we don't have that time to go into it here today, but that balance between emotional intelligence and social intelligence.
I love both of your responses, because I think you touch on very important things that we're living today, that are happening in terms of these toxic environments, these pressures, us feeling that we can choose where we work, but in reality, many Latinas, feel, and many women in general feel like this is where I am, and I don't have a choice. Like, I just need to pay my bills, and like, what can I do, right? However, COVID and the Great Resignation, are showing that there is a line where the buck stops here. I'm not willing to, continue to deal with the boss that, is always pushing things on me. It's not respecting me, and we're seeing very high numbers of women in all positions, not only in leadership positions, especially Latina, moving out of corporate environments and trying to do things on their own. So both of you're still in those leadership positions, overseeing, all of these things that are happening in the transition of workplace and workforce as we move out of COVID and into this new environment, whatever that is. And I would love to hear from both of you. What are you seeing? What can we expect of the future? Are workplaces truly trying to evolve? Are they not? And how then can those that don't feel like they have the power to choose can at least try to do something to rise to the top? Or is it more like, that's it, just cuelgue los tenis and let's move on?
Look, I was very fortunate, Ileana, to be able to be part of a fellows program from the International Women's Forum. And that was a long time ago, when I was in the middle of my career. And they gave me a lot of training and based on research about what are those barriers that stop women from moving ahead. but most importantly, what I could do about it. And I think that's the key for me, that I believe there's a lot that you can do, but the smarter you are about understanding what's going on around you. I learned so much in that training, things that were happening around me and I wasn't even noticing. And that helped me focus in terms of what abilities I needed to develop. Assertiveness. I think that's one thing that particularly for Latinas is important. How do you portray an executive presence, right? If you want to move ahead and you want to be a leader and you want to be in a position of power and influence, you have to come across as somebody that is able to do that. And I think training yourself, I was, to Raquel's point about being an introvert, I also was an introvert and they trained me on how to do public speaking. I think Toastmasters is a great tool for that everybody can access. And as you come across as more assertive, I think that's something that helps. Women, unfortunately, also have to face this fine line between aggressive, you're assertive and then you're considered aggressive. You're not, and then you're considered weak, right? So it's not easy for us. It's a fine line, but I strongly believe that when you train yourself and you practice, and I go back to taking control of the environment ourselves. When I say live, if you're in a place that is not good for you, I'm not saying do it without a fight, right? I think you have to, because whatever you do to improve yourself is going to serve you there or anywhere else. But I really think the US is a place where there's a lot of progress in terms of diversity. I know it's not enough, but when I look outside, there are places where it's really toxic, not in the way that you will find ever here in this country, which has made a lot of progress. So I do believe there's that. There is situational leadership is another good one. Some women have a leadership style that is persuasive, right? But in some organizations and in some situations, a more directive style is expected. So if you learn to manage both styles and you're able to read the room, as Raquel was saying, and move in the right direction, there's so much that you can do. The other thing that I would say, and it's something that I want to share with the audience, is how can you have balance of life? If you ask me, what I consider to be my biggest accomplishment in having had a very successful career is that I was able to do it without compromising my balance of life. That's what I'm the most proud of. I spent for many years all the time learning about how can I be more productive, because my goal was how can I leave the office on time and be rated really well? How can I deliver results without while having my cake and eat it? And I really believe that if you learn to prioritize, I am an engineer, so I look at it in two mathematical ways. So one is, I'm a strong believer in the Pareto, the 80-20 rule. If you really know what the 20% is that is going to drive your results, and you focus on that and you try to minimize the 80, and few people can do that, by the way, it's not easy, but if you're able to do that, then you can have more time and you can leave earlier and you can do a lot of things. The other thing that I believe is important is optimize versus maximize. In engineering school, they told me you can only maximize one variable. So if you're going to maximize your career, that's going to be at the expense of your health, your friends, your family, your relation, everything. So the more you have clear what your optimum is, and the process is you go by variable, and you say, okay, here's what I consider acceptable in terms of my health, in terms of my career, in terms of my relationships. And you work your way to figure out how can I be in balance in all the dimensions at the same time. And that means that you're not going to be number one in your career, because that requires you to work 12 hours a day. And that also means if you want a career that you're not going to be 100% a mom and things like that. But I do believe when you define what your optimum and your balance is, and you work towards achieving that, and it may change over time, then you are able to accomplish both your goals and your happiness at the same time.
Yeah, so I don't necessarily agree with the work-life balance concept. There's always counterbalance, and there's always adjustments, right? I don't think you'll ever achieve 100% balance. For me, in my career, my decisions have been a series of trade-offs. And I think early on, in my career, as I'm trying to establish myself, it was really about maximizing. Now that I have matured and I have evolved as a woman and as an executive, as a leader, I'd like to think that I work towards optimization using Graciela's word. And I still have to make decisions with trade-offs. In my previous role as the CEO of SHIP, when I onboarded early on, there was a lot that needed to happen. And so I focused on setting that organization up for success and setting up myself for success. And that meant working an extraordinary number of hours and having the firm conversation with my family that that's what I needed to do. And that was the trade-off. But I went into that being well aware of the trade-off and the sacrifices that would need to be made. And so that has really been my, throughout my career. To go back to your question about Latinas, women leaving corporate, are companies changing? I'd like to think that with research and science and we are becoming smarter in the corporate world. I don't think that we will go back to what it was before COVID. I think companies are really looking at what makes the most sense. Companies are considering how to optimize versus maximize, at least the thoughtful ones, and looking at hybrid with respect to how they're supporting their team members. I'd like to think that many of them are being thoughtful about how to support their team members, their employees, where they're at. Leadership development has changed as well. I was just speaking about this at Nestle yesterday during a fireside chat. When I was growing up in my career, it was, here are the leadership competencies and you have to fit into this. And I'd like to think now with research and science, behavioral science, that leadership development programs are being curated for individuals and groups of individuals, like Latinas, for example, and the barriers because of our upbringing, our culture, that that is a broad brush. You can't say that all Latinos are the same, because we are definitely not. But because of certain aspects of our culture that might transcend big groups of Latinas, what are those, and how can we provide skills to address those, or other type of professional development and leadership development? I'll say this too. I think it's important for continuous learning, and to try and avail yourself of those leadership programs to the extent that they are available, and you can avail yourself of those at your work. Definitely do that. But there are lots of opportunities outside of work, like this, for example. I'm a continuous learner. I read all the time, all kinds of books. It's hard books, ebooks, audiobooks, all kinds, just really to try and learn, continuous learning. And the final point that I will make is that oftentimes people say, oh, well, if you're not passionate about what you're doing, go someplace else, go find your passion. And that's really idealistic. And wouldn't that be awesome if we could all do that when we wanted to? But I'm not sure how realistic that is. And so I would flip the script, and I would invite you all to think about, is it possible for you to get passionate about what you are doing? Can you find passion in what is in front of you? And if you simply cannot, and it's a toxic situation, then yes, take a calculated risk and move on, but be thoughtful about it and be prepared for that.
I love what both of you have said, and I think we sort of talked about all the different questions that I had, which is awesome. But I think realizing that we have the choice of who we want to be, how we want to show up. Talking about, there was in the chat, and I agree with that, the difference between work-life balance versus work-life harmony, and understanding that for each of us, you know, it means different things, but as long as that we realize that we have the choice on where we're going to put our efforts, where are we going to put our time, and that we feel comfortable that, you know, that's where our focus is going to be. You both talk about professional development in so many different ways, but always being a constant learner so that we can then, you know, improve our skills, improve our habits, improve our practices, improve our mindset, always keep growing, so that we can then take on those new positions, or, you know, positions of more impact. And I love how you're closing, Raquel, in terms of, you know, aligning our passion with what we do, being clear on, you know, where does our heart lie, because that's where we're going to then be able to give our all, because we're passionate about it, because it means something that's really important to us. And I'm taking those like 4 nuggets of you know, summarizing as we head into the last 5 minutes of our conversations. But I want to close with one question that I always think it's important to learn, and that's about each of you in terms of elevating your voice. We've been hearing a lot about, you know, especially Latinas, we may be loud, but we're loud for others. We're very rarely loud for ourselves. And I don't mean like just stepping into a room and just shouting. It just means, how do we gain that confidence to really advocate for ourselves, so that we show up, so that we, you know, stand out, so that we really make ourselves be seen? And I would love in these last couple of minutes to hear from both of you. How do we, some advice for our audience, how do we step into that, like elevating our voice, and what has worked for each of you?
Well, that's what I was referring to, Ileana, when I was talking about assertiveness and learning how to come across as more confident. I have seen that over and over when I'm working in you know, Fortune 500 companies to develop training for women in particular. That's the thing. That's the number one skill that I think, if you improve yourself in those 2 areas, it goes a long way. And it is exactly that. It's being able to elevate your voice in a way that you come across as confident, that you come across as somebody that that knows what she's doing, and also believe in yourself. I do also see it's part of the assertiveness, right? If you believe in yourself, and if you are know what your value is and what you're providing to the organization, then you can do that. The other thing that I would say is, the other thing that we as women and Latinas don't do is, we don't promote ourselves as much as men do. Men talk more about what they are doing, and even if it's not as good, right? We tend to be perfectionists. We tend to want to wait till everything is done and finished to talk about something and as an accomplishment. And men don't do it like that. They talk about it, they promote themselves, they spend time networking, which is another area which I strongly believe all women, and Latinas in particular, should spend time doing that. Sometimes we try to be too perfectionist in the work and we don't talk about it. So that's the other area where I would empower, advise Latinas to go out and also spend time networking and telling people what they're doing and how they are contributing to the success of their organizations.
Thank you for that. I totally agree. I would add, I'll step back. I take a very practical approach to this. I think before you can advocate for others, you certainly advocate for yourself, but before you get to advocacy, you actually need to have effective communication skills. That's the baseline. Effective communications, comprehensive effective communication skills, because advocacy is communications that influence. So if you don't have a baseline of effective communication skills, it's really hard for you to be an effective advocate. So I will say that as far as advocacy. I think too, being competent and being consistent in your competency is very important because it adds to your credibility. I can tell you that I don't necessarily want someone advocating for me if I don't trust that person, if I don't respect that person, if that person isn't competent, if that person isn't credible. No, thank you. So if you would like to advocate for others, and I certainly encourage that, I think it's important for you to have effective communication skills, for you to be competent at what you are supposed to be doing, and being consistent in that competency and have credibility, earn credibility so that you can advocate for yourself and advocate for others. I would agree with Graciela that we don't promote ourselves enough. Perhaps it's our culture's definition of humility. And so I invite people to redefine humility. Redefine humility for yourself. I say ambitious humility. And to toot your own horn, just don't blow it. And there's a book on that, so go and look for it and read it. But toot your own horn, take credit when you have done something, but do it in a way that's not braggadocious, right? Do it with a dash of grace. And it's an art and science to do that, but practice and you will get better at it. And another practical thing that I would recommend is that you maintain a portfolio of your performance and your accomplishments. Maintain it regularly so that when you want to go and ask for a pay raise or a promotion, or it's that time for your annual performance, you have a portfolio, not a list of things that you've done, not your job description, but a portfolio of your performance and your accomplishments. So the different ways that you did your job, went above and beyond, the outcome of what you did, the value proposition that you brought to your role, and maintain that so it's not a mad scramble when you want a raise or want that promotion or have that performance review. And the last thing I will say, no doubt, networking. Very important, but I would also invite you to think about networking more along the lines of relationship building. One of my mentors told me that the currency of the workplace is relationships. And so you can be competent in your job. You can be excellent and strive for excellence in your job. But if others don't know what you are doing, you will stay in that job. It will be very tough for you to navigate a corporate matrix and move up and move around. And so there is truth to the adage that it's not who you know, it's not what you know, it's who you know, but more importantly, it's who knows you. And that's where ambitious humility, tooting your own horn, being competent, being consistent in that competency, effective communications and advocacy all come together.
Absolutely. Thank you so much. I know that we could continue with this very passionate conversation, but thank you so much for the time. Thank you so much for sharing these incredible gems of wisdom with our audience. I just see the chat keeps going and going. So thank you both for being here in this powerful conversation, and we'll move along.
Thank you.
And now we're going to continue as we started. Anna, are you here with us?
I am. I'm so excited. It says that you can't start your video. Okay, good. Perfect.
There you go.
Absolutely.
Now you should be able to start.
That's fantastic. Awesome. Well, first of all, Ileana and committee and everybody in the audience, thanks for your patience. This has never happened, so I'm sure there's a message from the universe somewhere there. So, maybe it's this, again, as I said, the trying to do it all kind of Latina thing. But I am so excited to be here. Thanks for your patience. And I am so wired with this, united we are more. That's going to be my whole speech. I'm excited.
Well, we're excited, so I'll leave it up to you to get us started. I don't remember. You're sharing your screen? Yes, no?
No, you know what? I thought I would love to share my screen, but I also would love to talk about how all my information applies to what we're saying, right?
Awesome.
If that's okay with you. So,
awesome.
So first of all, my introduction. My name is Ana Valdez. As Ileana said, I am the CEO, president of Latino Donor Collaborative. What we do, and I'll tell you why it's important to tell you what we do, because it has a lot to do with who I am as a person and also what I want to speak, about. The Latino Donor Collaborative is a think tank, and what we create is data, economic data, of the impact of Latinos in the United States. Why do we do this? Because 12 years ago, when the organization started, there was no data about what we do. Just look at this incredible amount of women in this event. Each one of us has an incredible story, and each one of us is transforming the United States. And unfortunately, very few people are talking about it, right? And so we decided that we wanted to show who we are as a community. And sometimes in this country, the best way to do it is to show the economic impact that we're having. And I'll tell you how that ties to identity, how that ties to pride, right? So that's the organization that I lead, the Latino Donor Collaborative. We create a lot of information that I'm going to share through this 20 minutes. Why am I leading this company or this organization? We're actually a nonprofit, even though we act a lot like a business consulting firm, a free business consulting firm. I was born and raised in Mexico City. I feel like Graciela, we have a lot of things in common. First of all, thanks to Graciela and Raquel. I think that was a fabulous conversation. Graciela, I have a lot of things in common with you. I actually graduated from Tec de Monterrey in Mexico, and I started working for Nielsen. So Procter actually was one of my clients where you started. I gather that you were not in marketing, but Procter Marketing was one of my clients. And so it's true. I was actually the second woman ever hired for the executive ranks. And so that was a big challenge, which ended up being a big blessing too. So I was born and raised in Mexico City. I worked for Nielsen. Then I worked in investment banking for what is now Citibank in Mexico. And then I decided to do a master's in international relations. And the reason being that I was lucky that I was being very successful, but at the same time, I really felt I was lacking a purpose. And so I thought, international relations is a great way of making an impact. And, international business was, really booming in Mexico. And I left thinking that I was going to come back to Mexico, and I actually never did. I ended up working after my master's with the United Nations in Geneva in Switzerland. And then I was lucky enough, and there's so many stories I could tell you, but I'm just going to tell you the results. I was lucky enough to be at the right place and the right time. I then worked for the White House, the Clinton White House, and the Clinton administration at Department of Energy. And then I actually met my husband, a Mexican American, and I got married. So I ended up staying here, and I've been here for 25 years. My kids obviously were born here, and that's my story. And why does that tie to what I'm going to tell you today? Because my purpose was really use marketing, communications, and business to empower people. And when I actually came to the United States and I saw the state of the Latino community, I was, first of all, incredibly proud to see the impact that we were seeing, but I was also devastated to see the lack of narrative about our success. I don't know if you've noticed, and media has a lot to do with it, but if you see a show on TV or if you see anything on the news about Latinos, the majority of the times is either negative, or stereotyping, or one of those tragic, horrible stories, of course, that have to be told, but it's not right that it's only those kind of stories, right? And the very, very little times that you see something positive, there are tons of implications, how you got there, and you must have been tied to crime, or you must have been just pure luck, lucky or something. So this organization was the perfect mix for me. They use business, they use the business angle, they use the economy, they use the kind of economic impact that we're having to actually create a narrative that is exactly fact-based. It's the story of each one of you on this, event that shows resiliency, work hard ethic, that shows love of family, that shows commitment to everything that you do, that shows love of this country and gratitude to this country, and that also shows strong ties to our community. So that's how I ended up running this organization. I'm extremely lucky. Another thing that this organization has is that it's self-sustained. And so we don't have commitments with any corporation or any brand. We have some partners for research, but our board actually sustains this organization. And so the only commitment is to improve and to empower the narrative of who we are in this country. Why is that important for United Latinas and how we are more? Because when I tell you the numbers, you will understand that these numbers are our identity. These numbers are the story of each one of you, but in data. I'm going to start by telling you the amazing numbers that we released last week. And some of you in these panels and some of you in the audience were there. We participated at Latitude, which is this incredible event of 4 days in San Diego. And we released this information that says that Latinos in the United States, and we're talking only about the 60 million Latinos that are in the United States. I'm not talking about Latin America. I'm talking only about the United States. So we Latinos in this country produced $2.8 trillion of the GDP of this country. For those of you in business, you know that the best signal, the best piece of data that can reflect who we are economically is GDP, the gross national product. So what does that mean? Because 2.8 trillion is so beyond my wildest dreams that it was hard to put in context, but I'm going to give you a context. If we Latinos in the United States, those 60 million of us, were an economy by ourselves, we would be the 5th largest economy in the world. Think about this. Only the United States overall, first, China, Japan, and Germany would be bigger than us. We would be bigger than any of the countries that we came from. We would be bigger than Russia, bigger than England, bigger than Brazil, Canada. We would be the 5th largest economy. And think we would be bigger than India. Remember that India is 1.3 billion people. We are 60 million people. So this number is important for what we're doing today because I want you to remember these numbers. I want you to tell your kids about these numbers. These numbers are official. I'm not saying them. The Latino Donor Collaborative is not saying them. These numbers are created by UCLA and by California Lutheran University for us. We pay for it. We designed it. We pay for it. But these are official numbers, all based on official numbers from the government. So this is the kind of community that we are. Within that community, we can go on and on about the impact that Latinas are having, right? Because the GDP is created of a combination of productivity, consumption, wealth creation. We Latinas are making 70% of the decisions for all that. We're making 70% of the decisions on what we consume at home. And you know it, right? We all know it here. We laugh, and our poor husbands they probably think they are deciding everything. But the truth is we know we are deciding everything. So, consumption, where we work, where we buy our house, we are deciding this. So we are the creators, the core of this treasure that we are. So when you hear that Latinos are takers and that Latinos came here to suck out the resources and that Latinos are lazy. That's the biggest myth. We have a presentation called the Myths versus Reality. And we talk about the myth about criminality. We actually are the community together with the Asian community that has the least criminality in this country. The states of the border are in the American border. I'm not talking about in the Mexican border. It's completely different. But in the American border, the states in the border are the states that are safest. So criminality, work ethic. I don't know if you know this, but we have another report, and I'm just throwing this numbers to you because I want you to go to our website and download it. All the numbers are for free, and you can download everything on our website, latinosdonalcollaborative.org. But last year we created a coronavirus report, and the title came from the data that we found. The title is called Latinos Stepping Up and Saving the Day. You know that Latinos, coronavirus started in 2020. By March 2021, when the crisis was not even over, Latinos, according to the Department of Labor of the United States, were the cohort more employed, back to normal, and actually breaking record numbers in jobs. So we didn't stay at home thinking that welfare would be there or unemployment would save us or the PPP would, help our businesses. Yes, we tried to get that when we could, but the most important part was that by 8 months after, we were already stepping up. And if our business failed, we created a new one that was satisfying new needs. If our job was gone, we actually found another one. And in the case of women, this is the most fascinating data for me. So when we started doing this report, we saw that men, the cohort of Latinos, was back to work immediately, right? The number that I mentioned is for men. And so we wonder what happened with women, because we saw a lot of, ups and downs into the employment number by Department of Labor. And so we did another study about what was happening with women. Well, Latinas find a way to get income at home to focus 100%, not 100%, but the majority of their time into helping our kids that were virtually learning, that were really behind because for 6 months they didn't have education, right? Some of us, people that have younger kids saw that. We actually realized that we needed to focus on healing our elder, healing our family from deaths in the family. And so Latinas were still being incredibly productive money-wise, but they were actually focusing on what's one of our 3 priorities, which was family and education. So this is the kind of numbers that we actually produce so that you know that you belong to a cohort that, although misunderstood and although full of stereotypes and myths, we are what's driving this country. We are the American dream of this era. There's no question about it. As you know, the American dream has always been immigrants. We are the immigrants of this era, and we're brown. And some people are Afro-Latinos and some people are blonde, but we call our community brown, right? We may not be the color that everybody expects the American dream to be, but we are the American dream of this era. So that's why this is so important. And when we talk about women, and Ileana, keep me honest about the time because I know that I can speak forever. But
yes, you have around 8 more minutes.
Okay, perfect. Excellent. Thank you. But when you talk about what a job is, I do believe that in a lot of different ways, and Graciela and Raquel said it really well, in a lot of different ways, we create the identities of our families, right? The commitments we do with them in order to create, generational wealth, or the commitments we do with them so that our kids can get the best opportunities, even though sometimes we may sacrifice a lot as parents. We are creating that identity, and the identity of our community should be implemented by us with this kind of data. We shouldn't be ever, ever, ever doubtful about the kind of work we're doing here. We come here with all the ganas. We come here with all the energy. We really honestly leave everything to come to better opportunities. And that only is the symbol of some group that have all the qualities to become who we are showing, with these numbers we are. And so one of the things that is really interesting, and I think has also to do with Latinas, is that one of the many reasons why we're producing so much, one of the many reasons why we would be the 5th largest economy in this world is our youth. The Latino average age in the United States is 28 years old. The non-Latino average age in the United States is 47. So imagine that our community is made out of a lot of kids. The reasons are many. One of them is that we have more kids, of course. Another reason is that we come here and we have kids like in the wave of immigration. We came here, we get married or not, doesn't matter, and we have kids. So our community really is producing a lot of the future workforce, and actually not only the future, also the past workforce. If you download our Latino GDP report, you'll see that in the last 10 years, Latinos have contributed with 82% of all the workforce, the new workforce, the new one, right? So that's a very important clarification. We are not 82% of all the workforce. We are 82% of the growth of the workforce. And so our youth is one of the most important parts of how we are creating and changing this country. And this is, again, the responsibility of Latinas in so many ways, right? So if our kids, the 30% of all the Gen Alphas, which means kids less than 12 years old, 30% of all the Gen Alphas in this country are Latinos. That means that in the next 10 years, the majority, or 30% of all the workforce, actually, not even only the new one, of all the workforce will be Latinos. Tell me we don't have a tremendous responsibility. Tell me it's not in our hands to change our community and this country. Imagine that together with the numbers that we're seeing from Department of Education. In 1980, 39% of children were quitting high school. The dropout rate of Latinos was 39%. That was really a tragedy. By 2010, the dropout of Latinos has been 8%. That means that 92% of our children in this country are graduating from high school. I'm going to tell you something. If my country, if Graciela Sanay's original country, Mexico, had a high school graduation rate of 92, Mexico would be a first world country. We are a first world country in the United States. Latinos are. And let me give you another number. Out of that 98% of the kids that graduate from high school in our community, 69 are enrolling in college. This is the workforce that will be integrating into the economy in the next 10 years. Tell me we are not creating the identity of this country, right? I mean, it's mind-boggling. And again, these numbers may sound, as we always say, the surprising truth about Latinos, but they're more than legit. Nobody can question them because they come from official numbers. So I am so excited to deliver this data. I am so excited that United Latinas has put together this group because we have to start doing this more often. We have to start reminding each other that we actually are the community that is driving this growth. I'm going to finish with a call to action. My call to action is, let's change the myths and let's create fact-based reality narratives at every level. We cannot allow for people to continue telling our story, which is the wrong one. We have to take in our hands the narrative and the control of our narrative so that we can actually tell these stories. How do we do this? First of all of our polling shows that the narrative is being created by media. Again, only 3.1% of the leads in English TV and film are Latinos, and 62% of those, meaning 1.4%, are negative. So we end up with only 1.6% of real stories about you and me and everybody in this talk. Only shows like maybe Magnum PI or Station 19 or Cinderella with Camila Cabello actually have positive stories about us. If you ever wonder, I don't think I see a lot of Latinos in English TV, but maybe it is that, I don't, tune in at the right time, or maybe it is that I haven't really looked well, or maybe it is that, this channel is for kids, or, you find all kinds of mental excuses. But no, let me tell you, no, you're not wrong. You are underrepresented. Only 3.1% of the leads on TV are Latinos, and half of them, or more than half, are negative. So let's change that. My call to action is this one. Use the power of your voice to change that. Use the power of your voice by using these numbers in everything you do, in your business, at home, with your kids, in the soccer game of your friend, of your kids and their friends. Use it everywhere you go. My second call to action is use your voice in every format that you have available. If you can vote, please vote. I beg you. If you can write a letter, please write a letter complaining about how people are talking about your community. Your voice matters. And third, because you do have power on your purse, use the power of your purse. Please support brands, shows, films, and companies that represent you in a dignified way and enough, in the market proportionate way. You are 25% of their consumers. There should be 25% of people that look like you and speak like you. So if you don't see that, use the power of your purse. Stop buying brands that don't represent you and start buying brands that do represent you. So with that, thank you so much for having me. Ileana and team, I so thank you for this group. I am going to join. I look forward to the next one. And for everybody in the audience, thank you for being here and for your patience and for your support.
Thank you so much. This was so empowering. I just keep seeing the comments on the chat, and we're definitely, as United Latinas, we're going to keep using the data that you're putting, and we're going to use it in the narrative to continue to build the story. Thank you so much, Anna, for
guys.
Sandra, what's up next?
Oh my gosh, I am just so moved by what was shared. I mean, before I go right into our next speaker, just to highlight using the power of your voice, right? Which is what we do at United Latinas, ensuring that women have a voice, that the women have a platform, and that despite you feeling confident, still you have the opportunity to go ahead and share and get that voice and get that message that you have inside of you out. So I'm like so emotional right now. Y también supporting brands that really have our best interest in mind, right? I think that is so important. There are a lot of brands and organizations and corporate structures that sure they can are giving money to our communities, but are they doing things for the betterment of our earth? Or are they causing destruction, right? So we need to be conscious of the brands that we support and why we're spending our money there. So Anna, thank you so much for reminding us of the power of our purse, right? Our money is, is a vote in itself. So thank you for that. So I'm so excited to move us right along to our next speaker. This is already such a moving conversation. Which we have up is one of our first of our power talks, which is Maritza Coscarelli. She is an executive coach, a trainer, a female entrepreneur. She helps to advance women, and her talk today is going to be titled, it's Empowered, Have It All Your Way. So Maritza, the stage is yours. Oh, you're on mute.
I'm still on mute. I'm like, is my sound good, Sandra? Thank you so much for that intro. I am Maritza Coscarelli, and I am humbled, grateful, and happy to be with some of my dear friends today. with these amazing women that have already spoken and been on panels. And I am usually a keynoter, so 5 minutes is all yours because I want to be able to cover this material that would normally, take me a lot more time. First of all, how moved are we by Ana Valdez? Un aplauso. Porque Ana, besides sharing this incredible data with us, has moved us. If you are not moved to action right now, then you are not giving yourself permission to be fully present in this moment. You see, the power is within you. And I think sometimes we're so busy doing that we forget to be in our power. So today, what I want to do is bring you back to a couple of questions. You see, I am more. You are more. And together, we are more than we imagine, more potential, more possibility, and more power to drive change. You can choose in corporate America to stay in the status quo and play the game by the rules that were systemized before we even knew we had a voice, or you can choose to be the change. And in order to be the change, what I am going to share with you in these next 4 minutes is where I began and where I continue every day. We will always have the same aspirations. What we truly aspire to is freedom and confidence and ultimately health and happiness. I want you to leave this talk today and commit to give yourself the permission to be happy, healthy, sane, and whole, first and foremost. How you take care of yourself begins to show in how you look and how you feel and how you do things, in how you are. And when you embrace that your worth, your value, your immeasurable value is your birthright, everything will change accordingly. And you will not be pushing or chasing, you will be attracting exactly what is for you in this life, in your career, in your business, in all your pursuits. So let me tell you this, si somos suficientes, más que suficientes, ¿quién somos? Why do we let what we think we are or our current ideas of who others think we are define us? The first step you can all take with me on a daily basis is to ask yourself, who am I really? I teach authentic confidence, but I am redefining authenticity. None of us are real all the time. We have masks and roles to play. I want you to let yourself off the hook in this moment. Exhale and just let yourself be. Who you really are and who you are becoming is based on your perspective, the attitude that creates, and the choices you make moment by moment and day by day. So that is the first question. Is it hard? No, it doesn't have to be. In fact, when you take the time in stillness, in quiet, in journaling, and really commit to it, you will find that there is joy and ease. There's a relaxed state that happens in your mind, in your body, and most importantly, in your heart and soul that you bring into the room with you. When you can do that, then maybe you're just freeing the most genuine version of yourself. The next part, the second question, is what is it that I really want? What is my clear and current goal? Not tomorrow, not in a week, in this moment. And are my choices, is the perspective that I have of this allowing me to create that in this moment for my highest good, and most importantly, for the highest good of others? Some of you know my story, and if you don't, I'm sure you will look it up, but I will tell you this. I was caught up in appearances. I was caught up in achievements and accomplishments. I was caught up in what other people thought of me. Am I likable? Am I lovable? What if you asked, are they likable and lovable? Is this a person I want in my life? Because you are already love. It is what you are. It is your divine gift. It is your divine right. Somos divas. Eso quiere decir que somos diosas. You are a goddess in this earth. It was put within you, and you can't live until you reconnect to it deeply. So believe in yourself and know this. Go beyond your limiting beliefs. Go beyond your fear. Go beyond what other people's opinions or teachings or ideas say to you and of you. Notably, this behavior, this high consciousness, this clarity, and this commitment to be not only changed my life, but saved my life. I am here to tell you that you have a treasure trove that is you, your possibilities, and your potential. And you hold the keys as Latinas, as women, and as yourself. You hold the keys to open that treasure trove and let it shine in a way that we become the change that we seek. Somos empoderadas. Somos más que suficiente. We are more than enough, and we are more united. My love and light to you all, and reach out. I can't wait to hear from you. Thank you, Sandra. Ileana, I will turn it back over to you. I believe that is my time. Thank you so much for having me. I see Sandra's.
Thank you, Maritza.
There you go. You're welcome, my pleasure.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Maritza. That was truly inspiring. All right, so we are going to go to our next powerhouse speaker, which is Sandy Martinez. And I'm excited for what she's going to share because it's something that we need to learn. And I'm like eager to learn just surface level, right? It's only a general talk. We're going to go dive deep into more to learning about this. But welcome, Sandy, and the stage is all yours.
Thank you, Sandra. What an honor to be here. I am so excited. I'm going to share my screen because I do have a presentation here to share with you all. So bear with me just 1 second. And all right. So first and foremost, hello, everyone. I'm so honored to be here. Today, I'll briefly share a little bit about advice on valuable skills that are very important for aspiring leaders, which many have already been mentioned. So it warms my heart that they have already. So I'll just reiterate them. I'm also going to share how these skills have allowed me to be successful in Web3 and in the NFT industry. So today I will also share about some insights on my experience being a Latina in Web3. But before I do, I would like to introduce myself. And you're probably wondering, who is she, right? So I am from Zacatecas, an immigrant from Zacatecas, Mexico, in the US since I was 5. I am an education advocate with experience in higher education administration at Arizona State University for nearly 2 decades. I am the founder and CEO of Strive Studio Career Coaching and Consulting to support women of color to thrive in their careers and assist organizations in my areas of expertise as a Latina higher ed professional. I am a community builder, a Hispanic and Latino advocate. I'm also a motivational speaker. I am the proud Jarritos Web3 ambassador and radio show host of Web3 Al Aire to educate our Spanish-speaking community about Web3 and NFTs so we are not left behind. I am an engaged board member of Young and Empowered Women's Association and also United Latinas. So this is amazing to be here with all of you. Overall, my why is to connect others with opportunities and make a difference in their lives, especially first gen and Sun Devils and immigrants like me. Now, the skills that are important for those aspiring leaders that I want to share with you today are definitely a couple. So first, strong interpersonal skills so that you can be an effective communicator. You need to be able to articulate your ideas, conduct public speaking, network, and have emotional intelligence. All of this comes in handy when you need to collaborate, manage, or even when you need to have difficult conversations. Organizational and time management is important because these projects and tasks that you may take on are many, so you have to be able to juggle multiple things and roles at the same time. Also, technical skills. Having experience with various software or technology goes a long way because sometimes you will need to step it up and organize the work of others, create reports, and create things like flyers or manage websites. You may also need to create budgets and forecasts. Being a problem solver is also vital. Don't just complain, think about solutions, Google things, talk to individuals or organizations on how they do things. This can definitely spark some interesting ideas or innovative solutions. In addition, industry knowledge is gold. So invest time to learn about your industry or the new industry you aspire to be in. Do research about organizations in the field, how do things work, what's happening in the news as well, and who are the key professionals. I found out early on that it is who you know that will help you, mentor you, and guide you through your career. Also, invest and cultivate your personal brand. Get that photo shoot, save money for it, and do it. Update your LinkedIn, create your link tree to tell your story and share your accomplishments. You do get noticed and doors open when others know what you bring to the table and what you have accomplished. Lastly, ability to use imposter syndrome to your own benefit. Imposter syndrome, or that feeling of inadequacy, even though we have success, does make us nervous and fearful in new roles and spaces. On the flip side, use imposter syndrome to fuel the way that you approach things by helping you prepare, research things, and reading articles on topics that will be discussed so you're more confident in those spaces. Now, to share some of the insights regarding Web3 and how it has been as a Latina for me, all of these transferable skills have allowed me to enter this new industry within the last 7 months, and I've grown exponentially. So I did step away from a higher ed career to diversify my background. And let me tell you, it has been an amazing journey. This Web3 and NFT industry is revolutionary, innovative, and it will impact our daily lives. As NFTs, they're no longer just digital art offering us, they offer us many opportunities like fractionalized ownership, distribution of wealth, exclusive experiences, and it represents real world objects like art, music, game items, videos, as well as homes now. NFTs are assets in the digital world that can be bought and sold like any other property using cryptocurrencies like Bitcoin and Ethereum. NFTs are sold online with transactions done on the blockchain, which is kind of like a database, like a huge ledger that is transparent and keeps secure and decentralized record of transactions. This industry also includes Web3, which is the next enhanced version of the internet, where we have more immersive experiences through the metaverse or cyberspaces where humans can interact socially and economically as a digital figure. So with that said, I have the privilege of being the Jarritos Web3 ambassador. I get to work for a family-owned company that has elevated Mexican culture for decades globally since 1950. Now, as culture goes digital and the world moves towards Web3, Jarritos has entered this new industry with the Bones NFT collection, with the purpose to build community while disrupting the industry and creating education and onboarding opportunities for new users from all walks of life from anywhere around the world, while bringing our good values in addition to expressing our beautiful Mexican culture. Now, the artwork is very special, first because it uses skeletons and cultural relevance. I mean, we all have huesitos, right? And we can identify with them regardless of gender, race, ethnicity, color, or creed. We dress them up and put them in real life situations relevant to our cultures worldwide from all walks of life, which definitely fulfills our purpose as a brand, which is to celebrate diversity and be inclusive to all people. Second, the NFT art is pretty awesome and a source of pride for me as a Mexican immigrant from Zacatecas, Mexico. It was created by two talented, brilliant Mexican artists, Perla Perez and Rocio Thomas, also with the leadership of the creative director, Severino Trulli. Now, the huesitos are decorated with our favorite traits, celebrating Mexican culture, fashion worldwide, lifestyle, and Web3. But overall, it's been an amazing journey for me. It's so awesome to find a home in Web3 with other Latinos and others that appreciate our culture. It's truly a global NFT community, and I'm happy to be part of this historic moment for Jarritos. Now, I have much more to share with you, but at least I've shared a couple of different things that will help you advance and also some insights about Web3. It's so important that our communities don't stay behind. And I truly believe that success is a choice. So I commend you, all of you, for being here and investing your time and learning about the immense amount powerhouse that we are. So today, just remember we are more. So never give up y nunca se rindan. So thank you so much, Sandra and Ileana, for giving me this opportunity. It's a pleasure to be here with all of you for this beautiful moment today. Thank you.
Thank you, Sandy. Thank you so much. And this is not a goodbye because, well, you're part of our board here in United Latinas. And this is such an important topic that we'll be having more, workshops and webinars for all of our audience, all of our members to be able to get to know more, because it is important for us to be in this space and have representation. As Anna was saying before, the power of our money is, can go a long way. So being able to understand what Web3 is, what NFT is, like all the digital currencies, I think it's critically important. And many of us are like, we have no idea what that is. So thank you so much for sharing with us.
No problem. And yeah, definitely. I do want to share that I am so honored to be part of such a beautiful Latino Web3 community. That's one of the reasons that propelled me to launch my radio show, is because I know of all this great talent and artists and creatives and business people and Web3 lawyers and mujeres en bienes raíces, and so I want to share that with the world beyond Twitter. So I'm definitely grateful for this opportunity, because there's a lot to be learned, but we can grow together in this new industry. So thank you so much.
Yay, amen. This is so great. And I'm sure everyone I see, people have never heard of Web3 or NFTs, which is non-fungible tokens, right? That's
yes.
Yeah. Well, we need to learn. There's a great investment assets and different things that we need to stay ahead of. So I'm excited to go into your workshops once we start launching them. So,
excellent. Yay. I'm going to be happy to welcome everyone. Thank you both.
Awesome. All right, so we have, we want to kick this off with our nominee video, correct? Yes?
Yes. So let me play that. So before I kick off the nominees, we're so excited to use this space to recognize extraordinary Latinas who lead by example, who live on purpose and inspire others to be more and do more for others. So in this space, we're going to recognize extraordinary leaders, heroes, game changers, movers and shakers, and role models who lead by that example through their courage, their confidence, their commitment, and integrity, empowering all those around them and make an impact in their community and their areas of influence. Now, we had a long list of nominees and we want to honor each of them today. So let us play the video, and thank you to all.
awesome.
It's just so empowering to see so many extraordinary Latinas being nominated by their peers, by their friends, by people who have, that know you, that have worked with you. Sorry. I'm now choking here, but it's important that we recognize, the work that all of you have done. But we do want to, in the end, recognize and give the award to 3 women of each of the categories that we had. So without further ado, let me share my screen to share the winners of the first category, which is the Empowering Latina Award. Now, these Latina leaders empower other Latinas by constantly sharing their power, authority, and knowledge. They act with integrity and encourage others by acknowledging their work, valuing their strengths, and recognizing their uniqueness. They are inspiring leaders who create positive change through the advancement of those around them. Now, this was very hard choice to be able to narrow it down. The selection committee really struggled to narrow it down to 3 of all the people that were nominated, all the Latinas that were nominated. But here are the winners. So we have Claudia Vasquez for Empowering Latina Awards. Congratulations, Claudia.
Woohoo.
We have Ruby Garcia. Also, congratulations. And Suzette Espinosa Fuentes. Congratulations to the 3 of you, and congratulations actually to everybody that was nominated. We'll be sending you your certificates, and we'll also be sending you your graphics so that you can share with the world. And in the end, everybody recognize the amazing work that you've done.
Amazing. Congratulations to everybody on this award. This is this is beautiful, especially that, the idea of just honoring someone, and congrats to everyone.
The next award is our Amplifying Voices Award. This award goes to a Latina leader who constantly steps up and amplifies the voices of others. They're intentional about sharing others' work and accomplishments. They value and take pride in their ability to uplift, engage, and promote individuals, making public endorsements of others' ideas and achievements with the proper attribution of credit. They're passionate about amplifying voices to improve equity and inclusion in their community and areas of influence. So the winners for this year's Amplifying Voices Award are Dr. Marisol Capellan, CEO of the Capellan Institute. Congratulations. Nicole Smith, Volunteer Engagement Workforce Development Specialist. And Floricier Bello, founder and CEO for Floricier Bello and Bello's Fashionistas.
Yay! Congratulations!
Congratulations! Awesome. And I know that we have many of you in our audience, and I wish we had time to be able to unmute and have you say some words, but we'll definitely provide the space because we'll be sharing all of these through our different social media platforms. Congratulations.
Definitely.
And the third award goes to 3 women, extraordinary Latinas, that are going to be getting the Connecting Community Award. This award is for Latina leaders who are passionate connectors who bring people together to support each other and create positive impact. They constantly champion others by making meaningful introductions that open doors for success. They build intentional networks and positive relationships built on trust and an authentic need to see others succeed. And like with the other different awards, it was very, very hard to get to the 3 winners, but here they are. The first one is Rosa Hearn, who is Rosa the Riveter and Brighton Best International for the Connecting Community Award. Rose Figueroa, who's managing scientist, founder, and director and program director for Explico and Belonging. And Cristina Costa, who is a coach, a DI consultant, recruiter for Cristina Costa Coaching, LVE Enterprises and Human Capital Institute. Congratulations to all of you. And congratulations actually to all the nominees, because you're all extraordinary Latinas, and we'll make sure to continue to celebrate, to elevate your voice, and to spotlight all of you for the great work that you're doing through all of our social media platforms. So congratulations, everyone. Okay,
Awesome.
so with
Awesome.
further ado, let's move on to our next panel.
All right. Okay, guys, you guys are in for a treat. I love these two women. I'm excited to have met and partner with these two, the first of which is Sammy Hyman Marrero, CEO of Urbender. I'm so excited. And Dr. Anita Sanchez, I'm so excited to have you both here. We are going to be having a conversation as it comes to leading from the heart. We talked about leading from the top, and now we're leading from the heart, which is one and the same, right? We have to maneuver those waters. So I'm excited. So first, I'd love to start with Dr. Anita. I would love for you to share and give us a little background on you and your background, and then we'll go to Sammy. Oh, está en mute. You're on mute.
Thank you. How many times do we hear that? Still, thank you so much. It was just, I'm actually, it's hard to sit down because I've just been so lifted by the speakers so far, and it's just beautiful. I'm Dr. Anita Sanchez. I'm Nahua, which some know as Azteca, and I'm Mexican American. My family comes from the state of Guanajuato, that area. And I'm a doctor in organization development. And I look forward to one day that I may not have to put doctor there. But unfortunately, at least last I looked, still less than about 0.5% of PhDs are Latinas. And I'm saying that out loud, not for people to go, oh, but rather to go, okay, either you yourself or whoever you talk to, step up, because we need more. Anyway, I come from Missouri. Just a few other things about me. I work mainly with large global corporations. And I think it's important to share with that at this point on my journey is that most people, I've been in my business, owned my own business for 47 years. And doing that so early in the 70s and 80s, when I finally got my PhD, everyone kept telling me, just join a large organization, nothing wrong with that. I consult to them, I train in them, I do all of that. But I just knew from a dream that I had as early as 3 and 4, that I was to connect hearts of people all over the world. And that is indeed what I did. And despite all of the barriers and challenges that exist back then, and some of them still exist, I will say that along the way, there has always been the internal things operating that remind me who I am, what I am, being a Latina, and that I can call on anyone. But also I've had inside of organization, women, many times a Latina, sometimes African-Americans, sometimes white men. What I'm trying to say here is, as Latinas, it's just amazing on the journey because we represent everybody in the hoop. And I'll close with, so I work with people in helping them discover and trust their gifts so that they can be a life-giving connection to all. That means themselves, their families, their businesses, their communities, the world. It goes that expansive. But I will say it also gets anchored in the work. As someone said earlier, numbers do matter. And so some of my work that was clearly from the heart was with Hewlett Packard, an ink print business, about 12, 15 years ago. And they were becoming a flat market. And by using the tools that my team brought, they went from a 25 billion to a 29 billion operation in a little over a year in a flat market. And it was all about reconnecting people, igniting the leadership. And so I say that, I share that, because if any of you have any doubt and you're getting those voices from other people, please go back to your dream, go back to some practice, some private closed time, just to really find that space in you that knows, that feels that pull on your heart to go forward in your journey. And I'll stop with that because I know we'll have more questions.
I love that. Thank you so much. Sammy, would love to hear your intro.
Yes, I'm excited to be here and thank you for the invite. Yeah, my background is from a work perspective in publishing, but I grew up in Puerto Rico, right? in a Spanish speaking environment and was striving to always pursue a communications career. And I figured once I graduated to move to New York City, where my family is originally from. My parents are first generation Puerto Ricans, or what they call New Yorkers, from the Bronx. And I was on this quest, right, to achieve success and take all these tools and all of this education that our parents, my story is not unique, right, that our parents poured into us to push us to live and accomplish more than they did, right? And so in that process of working in New York City, specifically in the media industry that's been alluded to a couple of times here, I saw it up close and personal, right? And I have to say that my growing up and my foundation of nurturing faith, family, and community, you know, and that was always at the epicenter of everything we did as a family growing up. To the extent of marching and protesting in Puerto Rico and raising our voices a lot when I was a kid. And so that was kind of ingrained from an early age into how I was built, right? And how I should behave and how I should express myself. And so when I started a career in media in New York City in my early 20s, I walked into these corporate spaces that were, for the most part, run, right, or governed by white men that were in charge of creating these narratives. And I guess back then I didn't realize that I was part of this system, right? But still, I always exercise self-advocacy, right? And also always try to find a way to advocate for others, sometimes to my own detriment, because I couldn't help myself. That's how I grew up, right? To raise my voice and do what's right and, you know, fight for justice. And so because of that, I had throughout my career my fair share of being denigrated and treated unfairly and, you know, being overlooked, but eventually staying true to who I was and my high value or my high level of competence in the tasks that I was asked to perform afforded me throughout the years several promotions and the opportunity to sit on important meetings with these very white men. And so I had a chance to really learn and see it up close and personal that they too were speaking and leading from their heart in many cases, and that they didn't hide who they were. They were very open and direct, and oftentimes there was sometimes there was good stuff, but oftentimes there was a lot of dishonesty, greed, lust, and they were tone deaf, right, in that. So what happened was, fast forward 14 years ago, after over a decade of working in publishing and in media, I lost my job because of the 2008 recession and decided then to start my own business porque no había más nada. So I put the machete between my teeth and I said, well, I guess I'm just going to have to, you know, move forward with this thing, right? And so that's how we started Urbander, which is a solution-driven agency that helps transform business narratives to advance humanity through an equity lens. And at the beginning, it was very, very scary when I first started because it was all new to me. Now I'm la jefa, right? Until one day I realized that I was free and that I was unleashed and that my advocacy could be taken to a whole other level. And I think that I've been able to stay true to who I am and to lead from the heart because I've surrounded myself with trusted friends and family members who always keep me in check and keep it real. And I do the same thing for them. And we just make sure that our success doesn't get to our heads, right? And these experiences that are more positive experiences, because success is different for everybody, right? And that it doesn't pollute our hearts. And so if we can, you know, that's how I've tried to maintain and stay the course, right? By just surrounding myself with people that are just as brutally honest and heart leaders as I am.
Wow, you brought up a lot of different points that I want to touch on, both of you, especially with mentioning the being in a space where luckily you had some heart-centered individuals in that space. I was in the opposite where there wasn't. And I heard, you hear the stigma, you hear the stereotypes being said out loud about you in front of you, and you're just eating that up, right? So, and I'm sure many people can relate to some of this. Is how do you, in an environment like that, still maintain, you know, coming from a place of heart, which I think is innate within us, but at the same time fighting for that need of, and it's not so much fighting to be respected, because like you said, you do your job, you know your skills, that is innate, that is also innate, that warrior side of us. But how do you stay heart-centered if the environment is the opposite of what you mentioned? How do you stay heart-centered and focused when you're hearing this, this data around you?
Oh, I'll go ahead and answer that one for now. I think this is when it requires us, which I believe I know I learned in my family, and I have 121st cousins, so I have a pretty big initial size family. My mom was one of 10, my dad was one of 10. And it was always, we were pressed upon us to do our own healing, but that we also had each other there. My grandmother was a curandera back in Mexico, and so her mother was, and her grandmother and mother, on and on. But we were always taught that silence, different kinds of practices. Some of them were in motion, some of them were honoring the sun rising, all various kinds of things. Some of it's just being at circle at dinner table and just talking and sharing what was going on. And I know and many of you can relate to some or all of those things. And that was just really important to be about that. And so that's in part why early on, and I still do it, I make sure about my posture. People, the first thing they see is your physicality. And they make all sorts of quick decisions. And I know media knows this very quickly, of whether you're trustworthy, whether you're intelligent, whether you're attractive, blah, blah, blah. Now, what I just do is just say, okay, I'm not here alone. I have all of my ancestors with me. I'm thinking about all who are going to follow, at least 7 generations forward. And so I stand here in my fullness, despite what's being said. But that's why I even said I still put doctor up there, because people look at me and assume, just like the people when I got my PhD in the 80s, well, I'm Mexican, indigenous, you can't have your own business. Just watch me. But I didn't use it as pushing energy against them. I just knew, because it came from my heart. This is what I was meant to do. This is the dream of the 3 and 4-year-old who saw herself in dreams with many other people, with our hands on each other's heart, connecting them all over the world. And that's what I've been doing. So that dream from 3 and 4. So that's another part, is just to remember, what is your vision? What is your purpose? Because I'll tell you, pain pushes, but you can also spiral down in it until vision pushes. Pulls. So you want the vision to pull you, dreams pull you. So just dream away. That's part of how I have compassion, even though sometimes it's very difficult when people will say, and I can hear them say things. But so that's another human being, worthy of dignity, maybe not acting in a dignified way right now, but it's not going to change how I'm going to be. And I don't do it alone. Gather others with you. We were taught that as La Familia. You don't, as those old movies of, the Lone Ranger, all those silliness. No, we have all that, if not physically with it. We know from the heart research, we know from all the brain research that we actually have all that. It's in our DNA, it's in our epigenetics. We can draw on all that, and we do. Hi, Sammy, you're going to.
Hi, yes.
Yes.
Yeah, that was powerful. To me, what really has helped me stay the course and try to navigate, because that's really what it is, navigate the BS and it's like, oh my gosh, I can't believe I'm in this environment, and what am I going to do? Is really finding within, again, my circle, my tribe, right? And finding a mentor, or trying to identify within a department that might not be my own, right? An ally, someone that has the ear, right? Of and so it's almost like being, I call it the CIA, right? Like infiltrating these spaces, but it's not CIA like Central Intelligence Agency. It's more like comadres in action, right? And so you have to be like a comadre in action, like being aware of who has the ear of the decision maker, right? Who can be a mentor? Who is that person that is an influencer and can teach you how to navigate that? To me, it was in one of my jobs where I was very challenged, right? With being yelled at and just being or trying to feel like I'm stupid or I don't know what I'm talking about or whatever, right? Her name was Betty Rockmore, a Jewish woman. And she would always tell me, Sami, learn their language, learn the data, keep your eye on the bottom line, ignore them, and then also when situations came up with, inappropriate touching, because it's happened to a lot of us, right? Who do I speak to, right? Who is an ally? Who is going to, and how do you manage that, right? In a safe space that, protects you and your job, but maybe not, right? Maybe you just need to leave. And I was in a lot of situations, and I did actually get fired in my first corporate job in New York, because I didn't know how to handle it appropriately, right? And so I'm like, oh, that's what happens when you show up in your full self, right? I'm like, I won't do that again because I needed to pay my bills. But in time, you learn, you can find coaches, right? And someone that you can trust and develop a relationship of confianza that you can use as your sounding board to be able to say, hey, I'm going through this situation. I'm not quite sure how to navigate it, right? Have you been through this experience? And if so, how did you do it? And what was the outcome, right? Because at the end, it's your choice how you're going to proceed. And sometimes it is that you're going to get fired, right? Or sometimes it is, but that's what you need to put on the balance beam, right? How connected is this particular situation, right? In terms of your integrity and what you're willing to risk, to move the needle forward for yourself and for the greater good. And so, it's about finding mentors, finding allies, or what I like to call accomplices, because that word allyship, sometimes there's a lot of fluff embedded into it. And so I'd rather look for accomplices that are really ready to jump into the rink with me and just fight it out, right?
Yeah. This is so interesting, because where I was when I was in the corporate environment, there weren't a lot of those women. Like we're like, where are they? Where are my Latinas that are doing something that I can, learn from and gain from? How do you manage when that's the case? When your office isn't full of powerhouse Latinas that are willing to lend a hand down and mentor you and guide you?
Yeah. Well, that is often still the case, unfortunately. It's changing. It's changing, thank goodness. But I know my first entry into Hewlett Packard, being one of my clients for now almost 30 years, was a Latina who people didn't pay attention. She would say, they don't pay attention to me. I'm really low in HR. But she came and watched, benchmarked one of my programs that I was doing for AT&T and Digital and DuPont. And she took that and she never stopped. She was relentless. And that then meant that other companies began here. I started doing much work there. So whether it's a secretary and whether they're Latinas or not, or whether whoever, is when you treat human beings as worthy, just like you are, and don't make judgment. That's what happens so much in corporate. Oh, you don't matter. You're not high enough in the food chain or something. But when you go in knowing that everybody matters, that gets picked up. It's really critical. And the other thing I want to say is that when they're not there, so one of my most recent things that I had a little bit of fear about is that I started writing books. And my first book I wrote was in 2017, and it won the 2019 International Latino Book Award for Best Self-Help Book and Most Inspirational Nonfiction. Now, was excited and so grateful for that. However, I thought there was so much truth-telling in that book about all of me, not just the corporate. I thought, I don't know. I just separated it, which I keep saying, separation is illusion. Bring it back together and see how you can leverage. But what it actually has done is since then is more corporations have been coming to me saying, wow, you can help us. We need to know more about unity and hope. And what about this forgiveness? I'm on my third marriage and this is not working. I don't want to give my heart and soul to the company anymore, but I still want to do good for my people, all those kinds of things. So I think that it's just very important that you remember we're all members of this hoop of life. And as Latinas, especially because we come in every color and every race, we should automatically remember that, which then allows us to be able to move forward. The last thing I want to say, if you turn it, is that there's so much science, folks, I don't have time to talk about, but it makes me think of Anna. There's so much science that talks about that who's really in charge here. Part of the problems that we're having, whether it's climate change or social justice or whatever, is because of this mind. We have it racing like a gerbil, like a human doing instead of being. And it's actually the heart is informing more if we take this and put it back into alignment and balance. So there's lots of science to draw on is why the heart, being a heart-centered leadership, is what is being asked for at this time.
Yes, yes, absolutely. And part of that too is elevating others as you elevate yourself too, right? And so I think that the lack of representation of Latinos in power in the C-suite, right, as they should, given the sheer numbers that were shared earlier today, is because we have grown in this system of competition, right? And so unfortunately, we jump on this hamster wheel and we have this illusion or this construct of what success is supposed to look like, right? With the house, with the white picket fence and the $100,000 plus salary and the fancy cars and all of that stuff. And that's it. Estamos agringolados, ¿verdad? So tenemos los blinders así, and that's what we're hyper focused on. But as you grow, other people can grow too, right? And so I think that there's room for us to not forget. I can't look away anymore after lost my job. I realized I was in that right space. And so it's just very, very important to not become gatekeepers when we reach positions of influence and power, and to always remember, right, to bring una compañera o un compañero up. If there's a position available, make recommendations, of course, based on competency. You don't want to put yourself in a pickle y recomendar just for recomendar's sake, right? And so as was mentioned earlier too, so it's very, very important just to know how to intercede, how to, make sure that we are ER agents. I like, using examples or analogies, and it's becoming ER agents is to make sure that we have equity become realized, right? In these spaces in terms of representation. And so I'll leave you with this. I know that we talked about some of the numbers, but in the last decade, the Latino population grew 23% according to the census, compared to 4.3% of all other ethnic and racial groups combined. That tells me that in the next, by 2045, this new global majority in this country is driven, right? This shift in our demographics by Latinas, because we are the matriarchs of the new America. We're literally pariendo the next generation of Americans, okay? And so we need to understand that it's our role to raise, like we raised our children in our homes. And when I say matriarcas, it's if you haven't birthed children, it's okay. You're a tia, godmother, you're connected to kids somehow, right? And so it's our role just to instill these values that identify us as Latinos, which is family, integridad, hard work, commitment to community, as we move forward. So that way that can also be dispersed throughout corporate America in all of the spaces that we show up in.
Wow, I love that so much. All right, so I got a couple more questions for you guys. What do you feel is the biggest misconception about being heart-centered and being an empathetic leader, where we can sometimes feel that comes from a place of weakness and vulnerability? So how do we manage that?
Oh gosh. Sami, you can go first if you want, or I'll go ahead since you just spoke.
Okay,
Whatever you want to do. Go ahead.
okay.
We'll switch it.
Okay, Dr. Sanchez. Yes. So, yes, it comes across as a place of weakness, but since for the last 14 years, I've been showing up every year in my full power, as much as I can. And when it's behind closed doors and in a safe space, right, with clients, for example, they already know and appreciate it because they know, coño, what you see is what you're gonna get. I'm not gonna tiptoe around the issue because I want you to grow. I want you to grow, right? So anyway. One time, I'll give you an example. So one time I had a client, right, that we were working with them on a short project for a couple of years. And I was very animate and passionate, right, about a specific topic. And I'm like, you guys have a power. You're a national organization. You're Latino-led. You have the power to really exercise your voice and your influence and your power, with this particular issue. And I'm not going to get into the politics of it, but he pushed back. And then in that phone conversation, the CEO of the organization, male, tells me, oye, Sami, I just crack up because you're so emotional, he tells me. And so we're on the phone. It was a private conversation, just him and I just paused for a minute. And I thought to myself, I have control in how I respond, right? And how I react to this belittlement of sorts, right? That he's making to my impassioned rationale and quest for, the pursuit of what's right? And so then I took a deep breath and I said, you know what, so-and-so, I said, I was about to get all hot and bothered, right, by your comment and take offense, okay? But I'm going to tell you something, okay? Yes, I'm emotional. And you know why? Because I give a shit, okay? And I'm going to tell you something. The day that I don't give a shit is the day that you need to worry, because then I'm out and you won't benefit from everything we bring to the table. And that's it. Okay. So that's it. So if you don't want to do what I'm suggesting, right, with passion and yes, with emotion, well, that's okay. That's on you. But it's my responsibility as your agency and as your strategic advisor to tell you, what I see in the future. And you know what? It has a lot to do with the social justice, because our Latino community has been very lukewarm about diversity, equity, inclusion, social justice, and all of these things. We've been kind of like behind the scenes, okay? And this had to do with exactly this, okay? 3-4 years ago, way before, George Floyd's murder triggered, right, a heightened awareness. And then here we are now, they're scrambling, trying to meet the demands, right, of now, a society that's transitioning into a more human-centered approach. But anyway, I hope that example brings to light how I try to counter the minimization, right, of leading with your heart and of being made feel like it's inadequate or inappropriate.
Yeah. If I could add just a couple of things to that. I'm smiling not because of your story. It's happened to many of us. It's not fun. However, poll after poll is showing, for example, recently McKinsey's TELUS report said that 80% of people polled said they would leave their company for another who focuses more on their mental health and well-being. That's new, folks. People never talked about their mental health unless they lowered their voice, because somebody would think they're not healthy and stuff. But that large a number. And then Fortune in February said that only 29% of respondents across a large 10-country sample reported having healthy, strong sense of well-being across their physical, mental, and social dimensions. Only 29%. And then I also know that there's been other studies with executives who also were talking about leaving. So here's the thing, folks. There are all sorts of myths about if you lead from the heart, you're weak, you're vulnerable, you're too emotional. Look around you. We've tried just leading with the mind, and we have a lot of problems and issues. What we need is to be whole human beings with the heart and the mind, the hands with the spirit, all of it. And as Latinas, that's what we learned growing up, is we're whole human beings. It's all of it. Let the emotions come, let them flow. Don't let them get stuck. Let the thoughts come. That's the whole thing, so that we continue to grow and learn. So I think what the call to action for all of us is to be who we are, because that's been embedded in us. I don't care which of the 20-some countries that you're from, or whether you're born here, or included in the 20-some, but whatever intersectionality of your race of being a Latina, we know this. And this is what now leaders at the top are going into emotional intelligence more. They poo-pooed it before. Now, because there's a labor shortage, guess what? Who's going to attract and keep the employees? Well, it's not somebody who's going to just do bullets and from the head. It's people who are there with their heart as well. And so we have a role to play now. It's such a big way to bring all of ourselves to this.
I love that. Thank you so much, ladies. Just the last little snippet, one little sentence of any advice that you would give our audience or leave with our audience. I think what you have both shared was, we need to have more conversations. Like, this is just I'm like, we need to do a podcast. We need to go live. We need to keep having these conversations, because this is at the very center of our identity, these issues and this internal battle. So would love to, whoever wants to go first, just a last little bit of advice that you would leave our audience with.
Yeah. It's really important to be like nature, the principle of reciprocity. There's giving and receiving all the time. And as Latinas, we are worthy. We are more and more than just what's seen here. And so that means please give to others, but please receive. We don't have to be tired and fatigued and worn out all the time. Receive and ask for help. You'll be surprised. And then you'll be able to they can give more. So that reciprocity, please give yourself the love that you deserve, the heart space that you deserve, so that you can also give it, receive.
Yes, that's fantastic. And I want to add to that, because we've been talking about narratives. Learn how to tell your own story and how to define yourself. Don't let others do that for you. Okay. And then practice on how to tell that story. Try to find whether it's in the PTA, doesn't have to be in a large stage, PTA, right? In local community meetings, gatherings, town halls, whatever it is, right? Practice telling your story. I have a writing coach. We get together every week. And I think it's important to put pen to paper and really learn how to talk about it all, about your challenges, about the adversity, your wins, your vulnerabilities. And like Dr. Sanchez said, to really stand true in who you are. And then last but not least, I ask that you choose good. I'll leave you with this little story. A Cherokee grandfather is teaching his grandson about life, and he says to the boy, "A fight is going on inside me, in my heart. It's a terrible fight, and it's between two wolves. One is evil. He's anger, envy, sorrow, regret, greed, superiority, resentment, all of those bad things," he continued. "The other is good. The other wolf is good. He's joy, peace, love, hope, humility, kindness, empathy, generosity." And that the same fight is going on inside you, my grandson, inside every other person as well. The grandson thought about it for a minute and then asked his grandfather, "Grandfather, which wolf will win?" And the old Cherokee simply replied, "The one you feed." So it's not so much advice that I want to give you. I just want to ask you to please feed the good wolf in your heart.
That was beautiful. Oh my God, I'm getting emotional. Thank you so much, ladies. This is a powerful segment, and I just want to thank you so much for your time, and definitely we'll reach out for continuing this conversation for sure. All right.
Okay, so we're up next with our Power Talk speakers, and we're calling on Liz Chalesant to take us on. Liz, are you there? Awesome. The stage is all yours.
Okay.
Well, first of all, good afternoon, everybody. Very happy to be here with you. So just want to share my story. And I really hope that you really get something in the next 5 minutes. But so the Only Lonely, that was the nickname that I put on myself when I started my professional career 14 years ago. I use that term as a way to describe my circumstances, because during my career, I have always been the only woman, Latina, and the youngest one in the room. Well, not the youngest anymore, but I was born and raised in Puerto Rico, and I was used to be surrounded by family, community. And what brought me here to the United States was a job offer from the Navy right after college as an in-service engineer. And my first week on the job, I was in a hallway with other coworkers, and this older man came directly to me, pointing his finger at me and said, "Young lady, you will never be successful. You're a woman, you are Latina, and you have an accent." There I was, frozen, fresh from Puerto Rico, with my broken English. And at that moment, I had two options. I could start crying, or I could take that as, "Hey, Liz, wake up and welcome to your new journey." That journey has taken me to where I am today, even here with all of you. That moment in time gave me character, gave me courage, and defined my path as to what I wanted to become moving forward. And after all of these years, I have realized that I was more than that. I realized that I was more than one. I realized that there are more than one that looks like me, speak like me, and think like me. I realized that I meant more than one thing to more than one person. I was hope for the lady on the street. I was competition for the man sitting by my side. I was the hero for the kid I was raising. People were always watching me. Listen, people are always watching us. This is what I want you to take away from today. We are more than what we see. You are more than what you see. We are more than one of the labels society puts on us. We are more than our job title, our gender, ethnicity, our accent, being a wife, being a mom, being a daughter. We are more than our own story. We keep hearing that Latinos are underrepresented, and in my current role, I'm part of the 4%. Well, my dear sisters, hermanas, this is more than having a seat at the table, because I want to encourage all of you to be way makers. We need to be way makers. Why? Because there are more than one of us. There are so many of us out there. We have the privilege and the responsibility to make a way for others when there is no way. But also, we need to leave a trail for those that are coming behind us. The work that we need to do and need to continue is like building a cathedral. We might not see it in our lifetime, but we are doing it because it is important for many generations to come. For those of us that have entered the exclusive space or the exclusive room, we need to be determined to unlock that space, to unlock that room. It is not enough for us to just hold the door. It is necessary that those of us keep the door unlocked. But you know what? From the inside. We need to keep leading the next generation with courage and an open mind without compromising who we are and our values. Therefore, what do you want this society to know about you? That you are more than what? This is your chance to fill the blank. Thank you.
Thank you so much. So powerful. And now I would like to bring to the stage Claudia Cardoso. Claudia, are you there? Awesome. Welcome, welcome. The stage is all yours.
Thank you. Thank you so much. I am so inspired by everyone. And I feel like, yes, we are more when we lead from the heart. Thank you, especially to Dr. Sanchez and Sami for those contributions. So it is a pleasure for me to be here. So I'm going to talk about, sorry, I'm having a little bit of difficulties with technology right now. So I'm here to talk about talent and how talent can help us build healthy relationships. I discovered that I must understand my talents first and understand those are real talents. I noticed that sometimes we use our talents unproductively. I am so sorry, I'm completely frozen right now. It took me a long time for me to understand how I think, what's important to me. And one of my talents is a commitment to excellence. It is a desire to turn something good into great. Gallup called it a maximizer talent in their Clifton Strengths framework. I always saw opportunities to improve on my work and the work of others. It was also what energized me to work on my own personal development and assist others on their personal growth journey as well. It would have benefited me better if I would have understood how sometimes that talent got in the way of my own relationships. So talents become unproductive when we impose them onto others. In other words, when we expect others to see the world how we see it or value the same things that we value. Pushing myself to do things to the best of my ability became so ingrained in me that it was basically how life was supposed to be for me. I became a perfectionist, not only in my work, but also in the expectations that I have for others, mostly those closest to me. For instance, I constantly ask my daughter, how could you do it better next time? And in retrospect, I understand that this question meant for her that her effort was not good enough. While for me, what it really meant was, great job, but you have the potential for greater things. Unfortunately, I didn't communicate it in that way to her. So inadvertently, I put a lot of pressure on my daughter to always perform with those high standards. A gap in communication and misalignment of values is more common than you may think. It happens when we get frustrated with someone at work because they don't respond as quickly as we do, or because they are not as thorough with their follow-up as we would. Why do we get frustrated? We get frustrated because we want them to have the same values and priorities that we do. We want them to see things in the way that we do. When we have this level of unrealistic expectations, we not only get disappointed a lot, but we miss out on the talents our colleagues have. We miss out because we're so focused on what they lack that we don't see how they can contribute to our work, how they can contribute to our lives. So of course, it is important to define protocols of how to work together, but we have to let others do their work in their own way. Once you see the other person for what they bring, our relationships with them change. I now embrace my maximizer talent and recognize that it's my value, and not necessarily other people's value. I offer suggestions and help others see opportunities to do things better, but I'm careful about my approach and hold no expectations about others acting on those suggestions. I have two mantras. One is progress, not perfection, and selective perfectionism. My relationships with others are more fulfilling now because I now recognize that they may not share this innate desire to turn something good into great, but that there are so many other values that they have in different perspectives for me to learn from. So here is my challenge to you. What is something you find yourself judging about others? Realize that it may be a talent or a strength that you have. And that's why it comes so easily to you and not to them. Learn to appreciate it as your superpower and use it to help others, not to judge them. Then if you're up to the next challenge, take a colleague you have a lot of respect, but also a bit of disdain. What are the two superpowers they have that are different from you and how they can complement you? Lastly, I will agree with everything that I have said today. Embrace yourself, even when you completely mess it up in a conference. Be compassionate towards yourself, because when you do that, then you're able to be loving and compassionate to others. Thank you.
Thank you so much for that, Claudia. Amazing. All right, so now we are off to our next panel, which is building community, partnerships, and allies. I want to introduce John Moreno Escobar, who's going to be our moderator. John, are you available? And we have Eneida and Valerie and Abby. Hope you guys are all on. And that's it. I will pass the mic over to you, John.
Awesome. Can you hear me okay? Great.
Yes.
I'm extremely honored to be here this afternoon, and I want to thank Ileana and Sandra for making a space for a minority right now. I am a minority in front of this impressive, powerful, incredible, independent woman. I have listened to the entire beginning of this conference and the mid of the conference, and now all getting to the end. And I'm so honored to be the only man moderating or being part of this program. And I want to tell you all that it's a privilege to be in this room, this digital room with all of you, and learning as an ambassador and as a person who will be protecting always the right for women around any issue, because you all and us as men, we need people who could defend our rights and what we believe in. And so you will always find that person in me. Con esa introducción así de larga, que me estuve preparando desde ayer para decirla en inglés, porque a veces se cansa uno de hablar inglés y le toca a uno ponerse en español, es una cosa compleja. We're going to talk about this topic, which is sensitive. And I wanted to kind of like put the stage on to then talk to our incredible panelists and listen to their perspectives. But one of the things that we have noticed while we are leaders in our companies, where we are leaders in the community, where we are leaders in our church or in our volunteer hours with 501c3s or organizations, is that sometimes we find out that people want to replicate what we do. Sometimes we find out that if you are growing as a Latino or Latina, then people get jealous. Se ponen sensibles. Oh, you know, John is here, Liz is here, Sandra is here. And I do believe that we have to learn so much from our peers at other communities. We all know the Jew community is really close, and they have been able to build a strong community of leaders. They help each other. I know within our own communities, the Mexican community in New York City, the Dominican community in New York City, I could tell you the Venezuelan community in South Florida had been really driving the change on how to work together. So we're going to talk about building relationships, building partnerships and networks that will elevate what we do. And we will put aside all those jealousies en todos esos momentos canzones en los que no queremos hablar con esa persona porque esa persona está en un proyecto que a mí me gustaba y ahora estoy haciendo lo que esa persona estaba haciendo desde el comienzo. So the invitation here is to listen to our experts. And the first thing we're going to do is we're going to go around and I'm going to ask all of you to introduce yourself, your name, the organization that you guys are representing today, and also one little thing. And it's that, please tell us, how do you feel about the word unity? Because I think it's really important. What that means for you. So I'm going to start really quick. John Moreno Escobar, NSLS, the National Society for Leadership and Success, is where I worked. I'm the Director of Growth for Latin America, and I'm extremely happy to be here with all of you. And Ada, you want to kick us off? You have 1 minute and 30 seconds. Not just kidding, go for it.
Buenas tardes, gracias, John. Buenas tardes a todas. Eneida Roman, I am an attorney by trade, born and raised in Puerto Rico, and live in Boston now. And I am here in my capacity as a co-founder and board chair of Amplify Latinx. Amplify Latinx is an organization, Boston-based organization, focused on building economic and political power for Latinos. And the word unity for me is very simple. En la unión está la fuerza, right? As Latinos, we know we're not monolithic. We know that we come in all colors, shapes, sizes, nationalities. But at the end of the day, we're one, and we are perceived as one from non-Latino communities. So it's important that we stick together and that we focus on elevating each other. So that's what unity means to me. Thank you, John.
Awesome, Eneida. Muchísimas gracias. Abby, you next.
Hola.
Hola.
Apapachos y besos a todos y a cada una de ustedes, because that's who we are, Latinas. We share our love, we share our passion, and that's who we are. So I'm so honored to be here. Thank you so very much. And well, my name is Abby Razo. I was born and raised in Mexico, in Coahuila. I had the opportunity to live in many states in Mexico and also in the United States, Australia, New Zealand. I live in Utah right now, and I studied my first year of medical school in Tec de Monterrey in Mexico. Then I came to the United States to study agribusiness at Brigham Young University, went back to work in my father's company. I met my husband, an attorney over there in Mexico. And then we came back to continue our studies here, and everything changed, of course. But anyway, I have been working, my experience in working has been in chambers of commerce and in the county level, in the state level, and also at a national level. We have worked with also incredible women presidents of chambers of commerce in different countries such as Mexico, Peru, Colombia, and we worked with the vice president of Colombia actually last year. And it's just incredible the work of all these Latina in everywhere in the world. So for me, unity means one. And when it means one, it's just so hard to unify the minds because each of us we're just so different and it's unique and it's good. But when we unify from the heart, when we are united in the vision where we want to go, everything else works out.
Awesome. Thank you so much. And last but not least, mi amiga, compañera Valerie. Valerie, buenas tardes.
Buenas tardes. Hi, everyone. It's wonderful to be with you. Soy Valerie Solesi Wyndham. I am in central Massachusetts, and like Eneida, I am a lawyer, although no longer in practice. And I founded a company called Promoting Good 5 years ago to help organizations build transformational equity change. Because I had been successful in the spaces in which I worked, creating teams that were representative of the communities that we served, and I knew organizations could do better. And so that is the work that I do professionally. I'm from Mexico City, where a lot of my family still is, and one of the most beautiful places in the world. And a little bit of my heart is always there. I think I'm also, though, the co-founder of Casita Cultura Latina. We are building a cultural center in Worcester, Massachusetts, to elevate Latino creatives and to center conversations about the amazing gifts and talents that the Latino community has, but also to have important, honest conversations about some of the challenges that exist in our community. And John, you sort of hinted at them at the beginning, right? That we aren't perhaps as welcoming and inclusive of everyone who is Latino, Latine, Latinx, Latina, right, in our community. So that's what I am about, the kinds of things that I like to spend time on. And when I think about unity, I think about strength, because I have amazing gifts, right? I have amazing strengths. But if I bring other people up with me, then we are stronger together, right? Because I have my perspective and they have their perspectives, and together we are more. So I will leave it there for now.
Love it. So we're going to start from learning from you and what you guys do, and then we will go more specific into the Latina aspect of building communities and advocating for people. So the next question, it's more about your experience. So we know in this conference that you three are experts on building communities and advocating for others. It's what you guys do every day, inside and out of what you do at work and outside of work. And we would love to learn from really quick on taking us into that journey. How is that you and the organization that maybe you're leading now got to where it is now? And what was maybe just two things that you will see as part of that journey? What are the highlights, or maybe something that happened that you were like, okay, I have to pivot and start to do something differently? So your journey, building relationships, building communities, and helping people, and two highlights or two moments that you would like to share with the audience. So I'm going to start with Abby, then we'll go with Eneida, and then Valerie.
Well, yeah, definitely. Building a community, I think it starts on acknowledging the strength within the community and the people that you want to help. Sometimes we focus more on what is wrong in the community and what we want to compare. And I think that the most important thing is the strength that it has to understand and observe. It's very important to observe and talk to the people, listen to them, and see where they want to build. Building a community, unifying alliances where people have their strengths and they're different. It's just a matter of time where you have to really perceive what they want and what they really want to build and where you want to go. The vision, for me, the vision is very important because it's not what we're doing right now. It's the foundation of what we're creating for the years to come, to where this is going to, it's not about one person. It's about what the organization is going to be, the way it's going to be structured and organized in order to be that foundation, that strong tool for the people in the years to come. So it's been a whole journey. I've learned I learn every day. I love to learn every day because it's incredible how I work a lot with first generation of immigrants, and of course with women, especially with women that are small business owners. And it's just incredible to see all their talents, their abilities, their passion, their drive for what they want to do and where they want to go. But sometimes we're more focused on what things have to be done and the way it should be done. And we don't listen to what they bring to the table. So for me, the journey has been amazing to really understand and listen, to observe and really listen if we want to make the change.
I love that. And you mentioned and listen and observing, which is something that every leader should have as a part of their toolkit, right? Eneida, tell us a little bit about your journey and the two highlights you want to bring to the table.
Of course, thank you, John. So when I think about my journey, I have to go back to my passion about, how I deeply care about women and girls' advancement because there's always been an inherent gap, right? Opportunity gap for women and girls. And when we look at Latinas, that gap is even wider. So 10 years ago, I served on the Latina Commission. Well, I served, closer to today's date, but that is kind of like the origins of my involvement with the Latina Commission under the Hispanic National Bar Association. And the commission published a study that highlighted the importance of networks for Latinas, right? Latina professionals specifically, because we are, in our culture, we're so expected to do so much more. And women already, the pandemic showed us, right? Women already have a huge chunk of responsibilities in the home. But in Latino families, those responsibilities are magnified, right? And expectations from the family and the pressures are much more visible than perhaps in other cultures. And so one of the recommendations was that we needed to create networks of support and championing so that we could grow professionally. And so that inspired me to start the Latina Circle in Boston 10 years ago in 2012. And that really highlighted the importance of that sense of community that we really needed, because we had other groups, we still have them, right? And I'm also part of them, but the power of having an intimate group of women come together and champion each other and support each other, and most importantly, make sure that we're always thinking of the next generation, right? Because when we first invited the initial cohort of guests, we said, you're a woman on the go, bring a woman on the rise, right? Because we're here to champion and support each other professionally, but also to lift up the next generation, because it's super important that we're thinking, of the future of the children and all the people that will follow us, because we know it's no mystery that Latinos, we don't have the same opportunities. Unfortunately, we don't have a seat at the table, and we'll talk about that later. But it's important that we take advantage of these networks to lift each other up. So if I were to highlight two things that have come of this experience and that have really changed my life, is actually how organically the Latina Circle turned into Amplify Latinx, because we, a few years into our founding, we decided that we not only should focus on executive leadership for women, but also on all, leadership across sectors, right? And not just Latinas, but also Latinos, because we need to ensure that we're including everybody, right? And so with that in mind, we called the movement Amplify Latinx, right? Because we wanted to make sure that we were inclusive, that we were considering all the intersectional aspects of what Latinidad means. And that has really, taken us to, to another level, right? Because there's such a need for this kind of work, right? That we focus on leadership across sectors, we focus on inclusive entrepreneurship, and we focus on economic mobility for Latinos. Because if we don't champion policies and go to the people who are in power and let them know, listen, we need to ensure that Latinos have a voice at the table, then we're really never gonna make an impact. So it's really important that that we come together collectively as a coalition, right? Because again, this is not the work of one person. This is a collective effort that it takes a lot of people to create an impact, short and long term.
Awesome. Thank you for sharing that. Thank you for the work that you're doing. Definitely, I have heard so much about Amplify Latinx, and now I see the chat. So if you know any of these superstars today, make sure that you shout them out right there in the chat. Give them some love. Valerie.
Thank you, John. And it's been lovely to hear Abby and Aneda share. I think what I will speak about is the importance of relationships. I, as a lawyer, I had the opportunity to support a lot of Latino families and to understand their needs and their challenges, and to understand, right, how they're perceived in the world. And a lot of times, right, those perceptions are negative. But I was always amazed by how smart all of my clients were, by how resourceful they were, by the potential that they had to thrive, right? But that was sort of stopped by these challenges that they didn't always create, right? But that presented themselves. And so I spent a lot of my time when I was practicing law for 15 years, building a lot of relationships, and always feeling like what was missing was just the right relationships or the connections that would help people to be able to be in a position to thrive, because our community has amazing ideas, right? And we heard earlier from Anna, right, about sort of our leadership and our growth, right, economically. And those things have always been there. What is lacking is our visibility and our connection to power structures. And so those relationships that I built are actually what has helped Promoting Good to be successful, because I naturally built relationships that were authentic and honest. Once I started my company, work has just flowed because people know me and they trust me. And so I think paying attention to relationships is really important for yourself and for your business. And I think one of the gifts that I realize I have are those relationships. And so when I think about the role I play in community and in advocating for others, it's in sharing those relationships that I have to the benefit of other people. I think you talked at the very beginning, John, about that selfishness, right? Or that competition that we feel. And I think it comes from a scarcity mindset. I really strongly believe that we all can succeed, right? Because there are enough opportunities across enough sectors, across enough companies, right? That there's room for all of us. And so if I can help somebody to move along, right? That is what I should do. And that's what we should all be doing to support each other, because there's enough space for all of us. I think the other thread that I will share, and I see this in the coaching that I do with entrepreneurs of color, I think it is this sense of having had to pretend to be invisible for so long, right? And I think especially in the Latino community, right? There are more of us in spaces than perhaps we think, because we don't talk about our Latinicity, right? Because it may not always be safe to. And so I think sometimes we need somebody to help us understand that we can be who we are at work, and that we can succeed in that way, right? And that we'll actually be better and stronger if we are who we are at work, right? Because then we're not fighting, sort of pretending to be something that we're not. And so those are the kinds of things that I think are really important, and that I bring to the table to help others to thrive. And I think I'll leave it there.
Wow, you three are amazing. Thank you for sharing that. And I think that a lot of things that you all said are resonating with all of us, because we know how hard it is to build community. We know how hard it is to build a network. And Valerie, you said something really powerful, which is the visibility that we need to connect to the power structure. I think that is a big summary of how all of you have been able to create, construct, and engage and scale projects and organizations that have been helping our community to be visible. And when we become visible, we could connect to the power structure and they make change possible. So I love that. Now we're going to move into a little bit more into the Latina effort, right? So working with our communities at large is great. Working with our communities of color is great in any front: education, housing, services, finance, et cetera, et cetera. But let's talk about the Latina, right? Because we here at We Are More conference for United Latina, we have to talk about you, powerful women that are all sitting in this digital room today to listen to you three about the importance of building a Latina network, right? Just to give you an example, one day I went into an organization called the Ruthless. And this Ruthless Broward, which is where I live in South Florida, it's an organization that helps women to run for office, right? And they do it in a great fashion. They have trainings, they help them with funding, and et cetera, et cetera. Check them out. They call Ruthless, and maybe some of your cities already have that project. And one of the statistics that they share while I was becoming kind of like a collaborative sponsor of the program was that a woman, a Latina, needs to be asked 9 times before that person decides to run for office. A man, you ask them once, he believes the movie, se las cree, he goes and runs. A woman, and especially a Latina, needs to be asked at least 9 to 10 to 12 times to run for office. And the main issue was the network. Maybe some of them feel that they didn't have the network. They maybe feel that they didn't have the individuals to raise the money or so forth. Taking, of course, away the lens of politics, which is just my example, how do you see Latinas building a network? Tell us a little bit of what you have seen in your territories, what you've seen nationwide, the importance of Latinas building a network. So we're going to start with Valerie, and then we're going to go to Abby, and then Eneida at the end. Valerie.
So I mean, I'm going to talk from 2 perspectives. So I think first, personally, I have benefited from Latina networks. One, because I get advice from somebody who, more than others understands how I'm situated, right? And what my challenges are. And having a safe space where I can be brave, right? And talk about my fears and talk about, to share questions and to get advice. That is what has given me the courage, right? To take the leaps of faith, to do the things that I'm doing. And so I think a network can be an immense source of confidence and of just like the gumption that you need to move, right? Because you know that you have somebody standing with you and that you're going to be okay. And so I think for folks who are struggling with, or for Latinas, and I also want to say for trans Latina women who are struggling, right, with that sort of that fear of, should I? Having a network who has your back is going to give you that courage. And I think where I have seen entrepreneur Latinas and professional Latinas and student Latinas like need for a network is where they are struggling, right? They like have this idea of something that they want to achieve, and self-doubt can interfere, right? And so I think accessing a network can provide folks with the resources that they need so that those ideas that we have that are often so brilliant, right, can move to action. And I think all of us can be that network. All of us can, and maybe we don't see ourselves as advisors, right, or as coaches, or as that sponsor, but each of us has that potential to do it for somebody else. And so I would encourage each of you here to think about how can you serve as a network, as a coach, as an advisor to somebody else. Because, you may still need a coach or a network, but you also can be that network for somebody else. And again, if we do that together, we're all going to rise.
Love it. Thank you, Valerie. Abby.
I agree with Valerie, what she said in the personal matter as well. I think we're in a process of experiencing and learning every day. And it's just incredible how a network of Latina, and I work a lot, like I said, with first generation of immigrants and Latinas, and especially business owners. And sometimes it's just hard for them to really find a network of people that would understand that sometimes they lack of the language, technology, education, information, tools. And it's important that the ones that been here for more time, that have all those resources and tools, can create a network that will strengthen them, that will help them, that will lead them, that will guide them to create a better future, not only for them, but for the next generation to come, which is very important. The impact that we create as leaders or helping build these communities, or personal as Latinas, it's an impact that goes through generations. It's not about only one, it's about many of them. It's about their daughters, granddaughters, and so and so. So it's just incredible how important it is to realize that networking as Latinas and being able to give that encouragement and that hand and leading people towards this, it's just incredible, and it's raising every day, and we are in this process together, and like we said, we are more. So yeah, working with them, it's just like it comes all within the passion and the vision where we want to go.
Awesome. I love that. Neida.
Thank you, John. So, I mean, I will echo what both Valerie and Abby said, because I completely agree with them. I would add that, for me, I spoke a little bit about this already when I first shared my thoughts on what Amplify Latinx means. But when I've always been an entrepreneur, right? And so when you're an entrepreneur, networking has to be part of who you are. Otherwise, you can't really build your business unless you're out there networking. However, when in the context that we're talking about today, I focus more on women and then on Latinas, right? And so how do we leverage our networks? How do we look at who is around us to ensure that we're elevating each other and lifting each other up and making our community stronger? And so when I think of my own networks, I have different spheres, right? So I have the inner circle that I call my personal board of directors, because those are the women that I trust the most with the most important decisions of my life. And I can be completely vulnerable with them and share my fears, my thoughts, my ideas, my concerns, my hopes, my expectations. And they serve as soundboard for me so that I can make up more informed decisions in my life, right? And so that is like my inner sphere. And then I have my outer sphere, which is like the broader community. And that is, of course, peer mentors, that is regular mentors or mentees and people that I surround myself with that give me courage, that give me security, that give me, that champion me, that I know that if my name is not being mentioned in a room, they will mention it, right? And I do the same for them, right? I mean, it's all about making sure that we know what each of us brings to the table, so that whenever there's an opportunity, we can say, hey, call Valerie because she can help you in this. Call Abby, call Ileana, call John, right? I mean, make sure that they're calling the people in my network, so that they're growing, right? And so that they're building up their social capital. And I will end by just sharing this very brief story, because you mentioned the running for office example, and that is very true, right? And part of what we do is not only economic opportunity, economic progress for Latinos, but political parity, right? Because we're grossly underrepresented at the local, state, national level when it comes to elected office. And we all know that if you're not at the table, you're on the menu, right? So we need to make sure that we have our people at the table. And so about probably 7-8 years ago, we were at a cafecito that we were hosting, which is the quarterly breakfast that we historically host to bring together the community. And we were discussing a study that was commissioned by the Gaston Institute at UMass Boston, and it was about the underrepresentation of Latinos in politics here in Massachusetts. And so in the room was this young woman from Chelsea, which is a majority Hispanic community here in Boston. And she said, I've always wanted to run for office, but, I don't know, I've thought about it, but I haven't done it. And we all stood up and said, if you run, we will support you. And it was probably 50 or 60 women in the room. And one of the women there literally took her to file her paperwork so she could run for office. And we all supported her, and she won. And she won her seat. She became a city councilor for Chelsea. And fast forward to this year, she actually ran for state rep, and she won her primary, and she's poised to win in the general election in November. And she has said repeatedly that but for that day when she was with us in this breakfast, and we all said, we will stand behind you, she would not have had the courage to run. So that's why, it's important that we say, if you want to do something, just share it, because there's going to be a community that will support you, right? It's a matter of making sure that, that we build that and that we seek those communities so that we can collectively grow.
I love that story, and thank you for sharing. Those stories are powerful. I heard many of them and think that we need to share them more so people understand how powerful it is to have a network of people that believe in you and that they will be going with you into bad and good all the time. I know our time, it's almost done, Ileana. I see you coming and popping up on the screen. One last thing I wanted to say is that we will love for you to share in one word, because otherwise I get kicked out of this room. One word on any advice, one word, any advice to our Latinas that are sitting here listening to your powerful stories, one word that will describe how to build communities and support them. I'm gonna give you 30 seconds. I wanna steal a minute from the clock, Ileana, if you don't mind. And just to set what you guys think about this one word, that I want all of you in the chat to write one word that will help all of us to become more united, more in sync, more moving in the same direction. We need those representations that Ileana was Eneida was mentioning just now. We need those representations. And the only way it's by working together. So Eneida, you go first, one word.
I would say visibility. We have to give visibility to our community. We have to tell our stories. We have to share the positive stories. We have to control the narrative, because the narrative has been controlled by others for too long. And we need to make sure that we own it and that we tell stories that are positive and not just the negative stories that are being told about Latinos. And also to emphasize that we are part of the fabric of this nation, that we're Latino Americans. We're not other, we are Americans. And it's important that, that fear of the other is removed so that folks understand that we're here and we are here to stay and we're here to contribute, and not including us is a huge missed opportunity, both financial and political for the nation.
Awesome, I love that. Abby.
For me, it's passion. That's who I am. I'm Latina and I'm passionate about what I do. And to be very honest with you, it's the passion is what gives you the drive to where you want to go. And if my knowledge, my connections, my abilities, my talents, whatever I can bring to the table to create just a little small, tiny seed for a foundation, a strong foundation, to see the first Latina president of the United States, I'm in. I'm in.
Love it.
And
Valerie, let's close it strong. Let's close it strong with you.
I'm going to say powerful. We are powerful and even more powerful together. And so we need to own our power collectively.
Thank you to this incredible panel. Again, thank you to United Latinas, to Ileana and Sandra, to give me the opportunity to be the only man in this conference. I feel extremely honored and blessed. And now I pass the mic to our incredible Ileana to go into the transition for the Power Talk.
Thank you. Thank you, everybody. Thank you so much. This was so exciting. And now I want to call Marisa to the stage to give her 5-minute power talk. Marisa, the stage is all yours.
Wonderful. Thank you so much. I'm so honored to be here with such an amazing group of people. I've been so inspired by all of the Power Talks today and certainly the last panel. My name is Marissa. I am the co-founder at Zocalo Health. We're a healthcare company designed for the Latino patient. So thank you so much for including me on this day of empowerment as we gather the nation's top leaders and allies to really strategize on how we grow the strength of our community. I'm here today to talk to you about why we, the Latino community, continue to have declining health and trouble navigating the complicated US healthcare system. I remember as a child having trouble helping my family navigate Medicaid forms, trying to find doctors. We would try to find a doctor that spoke Spanish, but likely that didn't happen. We would try to find a doctor in our neighborhood. Likely we had to drive 4 hours to the next neighboring city to get them healthcare. So I remember this frustration and vulnerability that my family felt, and I dedicated myself and my energy to trying to fix the healthcare system. My whole career has been about how do we make healthcare better for our communities. Unfortunately, 20 years later, our system remains broken and our communities continue to suffer from poor experiences. I realize I can't do it alone and I need your help. So where do we start? So we first start with acknowledging that we, the Latino community, are more than just healthcare statistics. We are humans with a story. We are patients with concerns. We carry beliefs and traditions from our ancestors, and we are part of a family that just wants to thrive, not just survive. We're more than a patient. We have to acknowledge that our fears and concerns are important, that our stories should be heard, that we're telling these stories loudly and people need to listen. But the reality is we know Latinos are less likely than most Americans to have health insurance and get preventative medical care. More than half of Hispanic adults under the age of 30 don't have primary care at all. Access to healthcare services is a problem in our community. This is a problem because primary care is a service needed to identify and prevent chronic conditions and help us live our healthiest lives. Latinos are almost twice as likely to get diabetes than non-Latino whites, with 1 in 2 Latinos developing diabetes in their lifetime. Let me repeat that, 1 in 2. We're also more likely to have chronic conditions like cancer and HIV/AIDS. We're dying from preventative conditions and no one's doing anything about it. The average wait time to see a physician in the US in most cities is 24 days. Only 10% of patients will get to see their doctor on the same day they actually need that care. And over 20% of patients just forego care because they can't wait that long. So where do we go from here? I want to empower you and give you tools to speak up and start making a change. It sounds simple, but it could be life-changing. We must get our communities, our families, the healthcare they need and deserve. We can no longer stand by and hope that our healthcare system will see that we're suffering, our children are suffering, our future is at risk. Our community is only as strong as our health. So we must fight to stay healthy and strong for the generations to come. So in order to do this, we have to keep sounding the alarm that the status quo is not working. Our healthcare system is not designed around our needs and our health is suffering. We have to talk about this. We can't be afraid to speak up when you're at your doctor's office or when you go to a health system and they tell you no. We have to speak up. We must educate ourselves and our family about our rights as patients. We must come to doctor's visits prepared with questions, voice our ideas, make requests. We must find and support the allies that are working to strengthen the Latino experience in healthcare. And we have to support Latino students in exploring careers in medicine. We must lift up and recognize the leaders that are in healthcare today and are working tirelessly to improve the system for our community. We can't stop talking about this. Our healths and our lives depend on it. So I'm going to leave you with a challenge. And my challenge to you is to take the time with your family, with your friends, and talk about your health. Talk about the things you love, talk about the things that make you proud, and talk about the things that scare you. And then make a plan. Make a plan to schedule your exam. Make a plan to call a community health center to find somebody free resources. Make a plan to just reach out to an expert to talk about your health insurance benefits and really try to understand them. And share that plan with somebody that cares about you and will keep you accountable. We have to start with taking care of ourselves. Then we take care of our families. Then we start to fight this system that has forgotten about us. We are more. We are more when we have our health. We are way more when we have our strength. And we will continue to work together to fight for that health. And I promise to you and my personal and professional journey to always be fighting for the health of the Latino community and the work that I do and the work that Zocalo Health will continue to do. So thank you for your time today. And I am so excited to be a part of this thriving community.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Marisa. So, yes, I'm like just taking it all in. This is so wonderful, everything that you've shared, and it's so important. Sandra,
Yes,
we're
thank you
getting
so
to
much.
the end.
Yay, yay. I'm so happy. I'm so excited. And now for our closing key speak will be Claudia. Claudia, are you there? Yay, Claudia.
Claudia
Beautiful.
Romo Edelman, she's the founder of We Are All Human and the Hispanic Star, and you've made it your personal mission to help Hispanic progress in America. And you've really shown us the way of what moving from intention to action is all about. So the virtual space is all yours.
Oh, wow. Well, thank you so much. I want to start by congratulating you. This has been an extraordinary program, and I'm really happy to see that United Latinas were more. If there is one thing that I can say, one is I'm sorry I couldn't put the virtual background. Two, bear with me because it's a new computer, so I'm going to try to present some slides. But I think that the more and more I see people using their infrastructures and their intention to unify us all, the more I think we're going to see faster change in our community and our progress. So congratulations for this beautiful program. And thank you so much for pushing forward the unification agenda and understanding that we are more when we are united. So I'm going to try this. Let's see what.
Now we lost your sound somewhere. Now we can't hear you, but you're not on mute. Oh, we're good. Nope, we still can't hear you because we were hearing you. So yeah, before. Now we lost you. There we go.
It just needs a minute. She logged off and we'll log back in.
Oh, perfect. Awesome.
Mhm.
This has been such an inspiring day. I'm just so excited about, hearing everybody. Mute.
Oh, okay.
No, you're on mute.
But at least you're on mute. Yeah.
All right, this is what we're
There
going
we go.
There we go. I'm not going to be presenting slides. If you permit,
Okay,
I'm
that's
just going to talk to you about what I think it is. What I think it is very special about the moment that we have to right now. One is I've been talking about how much the time is now. I think that for many people, it is very clear that that we're in a break. We're in the brink of a breakthrough, the Latino breakthrough, the time in which we're going to be able to see proper, increasing change for our community, a time in which we're going to have Latinos really being able to make the change and start looking at that progress being manifested in our lives. This is the time in which we're going to break through. And that is if and when we unite. Every condition is here for us to really succeed. And how does success look like? It looks like every Latino to be able to be seen and heard and valued.
No, we just lost you. Now we can't hear you, but we were hearing you. So I don't know what happened. Nope. Nope. Nothing.
He's not muted.
Yeah.
Oh,
I think it has to do with her settings.
yeah, I was just thinking sometimes if there's any headphones or any other mics connected. Her phone, that'll work.
There we go. Absolutely sorry. I
No,
think that
you're good.
I'm going to take, like every Latino, very resourceful. We're going to try one way or the other to make it work. This might not be the quality, not be the slides that I had, but the message is the same, which is pretty much that we're at the brink of seeing a revolution where we have all of us an opportunity to see a historic breakthrough for Latinos. And I want to make sure that I invite everyone in this conference to be part of that historic moment. And I'm not saying that as a super proud Latina. I'm saying that because the data is with us. All the conditions are given for us to be able to make this change so that the next generation is really not 3 generations from now. The next generation can be fully paid and fully seen and fully heard. And that is a great thing for everybody, not only for Latinos. It is great for everybody because Hispanic progress is American progress. And that, ladies and gentlemen, is the only thing that really unifies Latinos. All the theme of a unification, everything that we are, is not really related to country of origin or language. What really unifies Latino is not even our, like whether we're first, second, third generation, it's not even our values. It is our desire to progress, to move forward, to achieve the American dream. And the only thing that I have to say is that sadly and unfortunately, the higher we go closer to the American dream, the higher we go in achieving that dream of progress, the lonelier it gets. The harder it is for us to progress, the more barriers we have, the lesser of the community support that we have. So it is imperative that we have for self-interest alone, that we help each other, that we unify, that we support each other, that we share the access code, that we open the door for each other. Because if there's one disease that the community has, if there's one talón de Achilles that is killing us, that is stopping us, that is literally putting us down, is how much we fragment ourselves, how much we actually tear down as opposed to build up, how much we use our creativity to step in each other's toes. I myself am living it right now. Within my organization, we are infected with a fragmentation disease, with a sense of scarcity. And it is understandable. It is absolutely understandable to know why do we live in this scarcity mentality? Why do we live in the bubbles? And what is it to live in a scarcity mentality? Scarcity means that you see opportunities as rare, as something that is not very easy to find. So therefore, we protect them with all our hearts and our minds. And we think that once you get to a place, you're going to close the door because that's the only opportunity we have. And that is understandable because we are probably the first one in our families that goes to college, probably we're the first person that is even going into senior positions, that even have wild dreams like making $1 million in our lifetimes or being able to buy a house. It is understandable because we have seen how our parents and our grandparents come with bleeding hands, with no recognition, having to work 2 to 3 journeys, 2 to 3 jobs so that they can make the same salary. It is understandable that we are in the scarce mentality, but it is not justifiable. And absolutely not desirable. We're stepping in each other's toes. We're elbowing each other because we think that that's the only opportunity we have, that there's only $5 to share. And there's no one seat at the table because there's no table. There's only a country full of opportunities for all of us if we support each other. if we buy from each other, if we mentor each other, if we build from each other as opposed to compete with each other. It is so sad that Latinas particularly are not getting it. When you're the only person in a corporate board, when you're the only voice, when you're the only one that looks like you, that talks like you, that thinks like you, it's so much easier to be pushed around. It's so much better if you would open the door for someone like you, so that you have someone else that can be actually there with you, so that it's harder to push us around. But we keep on doing it. We keep on thinking in bubbles. We keep on actually thinking that the oxygen is limited, and that if you're inside of a bubble, there's someone else that is going to take away from you. And it is imperative that we bust the bubbles, that we stop the fragmentation, that we stop and bite ourselves, bite our tongue, and refrain ourselves every time that there's a risk and a desire to be on the fragmentation of stepping each other. Please bite your tongue, like clap your hands, say like, oh, because our future salaries, the salaries of our kids, depend on how much we refrain ourselves from fragmentation. Because if we manage to really get into the unity agenda, we will be able to get into the pride agenda. We will be able to absorb that the data is with us, that we're powerful, that America depends on us, that there's absolutely no way that companies can hire or sell or buy or do anything without the Latino community. But we need to be united to be able to be proud. And unity, Latino unity and Latino pride is the way, the roadmap to go to Latino progress. And that is what we all want. So I think that a very simple message this Hispanic Heritage Month, that locally, finally a theme of Hispanic Heritage Month is actually not putting us as victims or as servants, like serving a nation. No, unidos, inclusivity for a stronger nation. That is it. It is all saying it, inclusivity, all of us together with an understanding that America is made of stars and Hispanics were one of them. Unidos, inclusivity for a stronger nation. These months, these opportunities are great opportunities to set the record straight, to get the data right. We produce more. We're the youngest. We're the economy. We're the job creators. We are the entrepreneurs. We are the future. And we absolutely need to understand that data and embrace it, but also understand our history. We were the first ever colony to come to this country, not the British. It's the Latinos. Latinos, we have been creating, and Latinas, we've been creating the very much of the American symbols. Did you know that it was a Latina that created the saddle of the Western cowboy? That we have been bringing large-scale ranching to America, agriculture, that we've been making it in businesses and in sports and in mining since the 16th century. We invented delivery services the way that UPS or FedEx are. We have been condecorated, the most condecorated in every war. We have things to peel off on our history everywhere. The problem is that we don't have those chapters in the history books. Our children don't have those role models. We have to create them. We have to author more. We have to be in front of cameras and behind cameras. We have to do that united. United so that we can mobilize as many people as possible under that shared agenda. Not only having a shared dream, but also being very conscious of having a solidarity mentality, and then being organized in structures that where we have those networks of support, where we can call each other. Like, hey, can you get me an appointment in that doctor? Hey, can you help me get a promotion in that job? Hey, we have to be that for each other as opposed to be scared from each other. So I want to leave you today with a real hopeful, like a note of hope and optimism, not even optimism, possibilism, because it's possible that we're going to be witnessing history happen in front of our eyes. It is absolutely possible that we will see our younger generations, the next generation, really being recognized as a superpower. It is absolutely possible that we will live in a country where every Latino has an equal opportunity to progress, because that's what we want. So Latinas united, and together we are more. Thank you so very much for having me. I hope that this Hispanic Heritage Month is a great opportunity for us to actually take our unity, take our pride, start looking around and look at ourselves without a distorted mirror, with a clear mirror, looking at ourselves as powerful, as stars shining, understanding that together we shine and that America is made of stars, and we Hispanics, we are one of them. Thank you so very much for having me. Be intentional about unification, be intentional about being with each other. And thank you so much, because together we are more.
Oh my God, this is so inspiring. Thank you so much for closing us with this thought and for showing the resilience and the grit, right? Like you mentioned, like we don't stop with all these tech issues, like we just continue.
We figure it out. We figure it out.
And we figure the message. So that is, oh my God, so exciting. We have a couple of minutes for Q&A. Does that work for everyone? Yes. Awesome. Well, there's so many notes of congratulations, of inspiration on the chat. And somebody saying that if you can call them in every morning so that they get empowered and like, you know.
Maybe we need a ringer.
We need a ringer,
something like
yes.
an alarm that's got your voice, like get up, go do it.
But I mean, look, I mean, the thing is, guys, you have to trust me. I'm not saying this as a super proud Latina. I'm a super proud Latina, for sure. But I've seen over the last 25 years where I've been working in communities that come out of nothing and thrive with a 10th, a 100th of what we have. We can do this. It's totally possible. We just need to be unified. We have to be proud and look forward for our progress. We just have to do that and have a shared agenda. So it is absolutely possible. So yes, let's get a ringer that says, here we are. Drink the Kool-Aid. We are powerful. We are beautiful. And we have to be united. So every time you feel differently, that you feel that you're not powerful, put the ringer. Every time that you feel the temptation to step into some other Latina toes and to pull and elbow someone else and to feel that there's only one opportunity out there, put the ringer on. Because that honestly is going to make us, just like, even if we just did businesses with each other, even if we just mentored each other, even if we just sponsored each other, we would be talking about trillions of dollars in opportunity for everybody.
Let's do it. I'm game for that.
Awesome. What you talk about those moments, and I think that's critically important when, you know, on the one hand, we're inspired, we're empowered, we talk about, you know, yes, getting together, but then we go back to our lives, right? And then tomorrow we go back into whatever the crazies of the everyday, our bosses or our families or situations that you know they pull us, and it's so easy to go back and to get lost, and we even make mistakes. You also mentioned about, you know, I need to get that job over everybody else because I need to pay the bills. It doesn't matter who I have to go over. Any thoughts from your own experience or what you've seen, like on how to be okay with that and just pull ourselves back to keep reminding, you know, this moment, and not just keep it as a one and only, and then 2 weeks from now we're back in the day-to-day?
I think that the unity agenda is very clear. I mean, like if I look at the data, and again, you know, like I really think that I'm just evidence-based. I'm not saying just like anything. I'm just like telling you the data indicates that there are like 4 clear priorities for Latinos. One is better education, better health, better gender equality, and better jobs. You talked about all of them in your summit today. So those are bigger issues. So that's a governmental, those are not non-for-profit organizations. That's the agenda of progress. And everything that, if you're working in corporate America, make sure that that is something that you put on the agenda, that you're like, yep, absolutely, we need to work on that agenda, which is the upward mobility agenda, right? Like better health, better education, better jobs, and better gender equality is an upward mobility agenda. And so try
to understand that's good for you, that's also good for the community, and therefore it's an opportunity for your corporation to engage genuinely with Latinos. But the reality is that in our day-to-day, look, I'm married to a, to a white CEO, white guy who's, like a CEO of a Fortune 500, and I see that. I see how literally they pick up the phone, he picks up the phone and says like, hey, friend, can you look, I called the hospital because I called the doctor because I'd like to have an appointment, but they told me they are full until 3 months, but you're on the board. Do you mind getting me an appointment that day at 3 p.m.? The appointment is there. And that other guy calls the other guy and says like, hey, my daughter is leaving college and she doesn't have an internship at that. And it is share, it's shame-free. It is clear, it's understood. It is a network, it's the status quo. We have to be able to have that, and they give businesses to each other. And it is as simple as that, is living the unity by understanding that you would not call someone and like, hey, can you help me get an appointment? And you would actually say like, hey, hospital, please never give an appointment to this guy. That's what we do to each other. We literally tear each other's down. We invent organizations that are similar to each other, as opposed to say like, you have an organization, I have one. How can we collaborate? How do we actually, do something? The reason why I created Hispanic Star is because I think it would be helpful for all of us to forget a little bit of that fragmentation that we have naturally. I'm Puerto Rican, Dominican, Colombian, and my ceviche better than your ceviche, my salsa different than your bachata, and so on. And to have something that visually can unify us, like the rainbow is for the LGBTQ, like the Asia Society, right? Like Asia Society in universities unites arch enemies, like the Chinese and the Japanese, they couldn't hate each other more, like historically, but they go together to get scholarships and to get into Ivy League schools. So what is our agenda? How are we unifying each other? How can a symbol like the Hispanic Star be helpful in that way? That's why we started creating the Hispanic Star Hubs, to have a place where people can simply come with the agenda of unification, of supporting each other, of advancing each other, of getting the pride out there. So I think that in our day-to-day life, what we need to do is have that intentionality, understanding that we have to support each other. We have to, if I can, I will always make a choice in, in my restaurant choice, I will go and buy food from a Hispanic restaurant. I try to buy Hispanic designers. I try to buy flowers from, a Hispanic flowers. I try to be intentional about my actions, and I try to be collaborative as opposed to not. So I don't think that we have to forget, this is not church on Sunday. This is our daily life, in a way that understands that if we do that, we're probably going to get a better salary. We're probably going to get a better social recognition anyways in no time.
And I think you talk about something very, very powerful in terms of it's our choice to your point, like go and be intentional about looking for a Latino restaurant, a Hispanic restaurant, or Hispanic owned brands or women owned brands, things like that. But then there's the other side of some biases that we might have on who do we hire, who do we get on our team, who do we want to partner with. And I think that's also, we need to be intentional about that to overcome those beliefs, those past perceptions that we had, to really focus on, yes, we are here to not only claim our space, but also open the paths and open the doors for other people that are coming behind us, right? Also, looking for that power and that belief that they can be more. So I think that's so powerful about the intention.
I mean,
Sandra,
look, for me,
go ahead.
Social change is possible. I've seen it. You have seen it. You all probably remember 20 years ago, it was totally aspirational to smoke, and everybody was like, yeah, that's so cool. And the cowboy, like my father loved the Marlboro guy. And now, like my mom, like I smoke on the plane. I mean, like it was totally acceptable. Like racism and xenophobia is today very acceptable. You can say the worst things and people don't look at you like that's weird. It is possible. Legislation can be changed. so that you can't smoke on a plane. Social norms can change, and your own behavior can change, so that you feel like, should I smoke really? Is that the good thing? We can do exactly the same with racism and xenophobia, and we can do that for our unification. Imagine, it's only for us to unify. But I think that if I had to look at where to start, I would start by making sure, from my perspective, there are three main poles that I want to pull in the next years that can start looking at how do you move the entire machinery, like those clocks that you can pull one pole and start. And one of them is mobilizing corporate America, mobilizing corporations. Corporations have a vested interest in understanding and engaging generally with Latinos. And if we do this right, that will unleash trillions of dollars in supplier diversity, in employee investment, in innovation. So we have to actually make sure that if you're working in a company, that you ask them, like, have you signed the Hispanic Promise? Are you aware on how to make Hispanics, like an inclusive environment for Hispanics? Are you aware that we're the future employee, the future consumer? Are you aware that 76% of Latinos cannot be themselves at the workplace? And make that change within. And start incentivizing companies to invest more in our communities, to put more money in education, to put more money on marketing dollars, so that we can be in front of camera, behind camera, seen as positive contributors to the country. We have to actually go, the second big one is unity and pride. How are we going to get our self-regard up, our social recognition up, and a sense of identity and unity? What are the things that we can all do? Read to our children like stories of Latino heroes. Be ourselves aware of the data. How do we actually make sure that we collect and connect in these type of platforms, so that we're like aware, oh my God, there's a true risk of fragmentation. We're prone to that because we're in the scarcity mentality, and we are that generation that is the transition generation that has the job to finish the job. That's our job. Our parents did the big thing, which is really get us to the place where we are, make the hard sacrifices. The only thing we need to do is to finish the job and really make the transition. So are we going to do that to increase our unity and pride? And I think that the last piece for me as a marketer is to make sure that everything that a lot of people said before is that we work in the perception and owning our narrative. And as a marketer, I'm offering toolkits, messaging frameworks, data, so that everybody can be equipped, so that we can all have the tools that we need, so that we can go and talk to our HR, our marketing person, our neighbor, our dinner conversations, and everyone about the power of Latino, understanding that we have to set the record straight and make sure that everybody understands that Hispanic progress is American progress, and that America is made of stars, and we are one of them.
I love that, Claudia, and I would love to share some of that data. And you touched on something that I think stops people from approaching their organizations with, hey, are you following these policies? Is being the one loner, right? That maybe that only Latina in that department. So for that person to go approach their manager or the CEO or anyone in authority in that organization with that hesitancy, like, how do you help somebody overcome that hesitancy of, I could lose my job potentially if I muddy the waters kind of thing?
And that is, I think, that the biggest issue that we have, right? Like, we have the cultural norms that we have heard all across. Calladita te ves más bonita. Mija, don't rock the boat. Be lucky. Be happy. You already have a job. That's amazing. So we have all those voices around us. Socially, within, like the norms that we have is like, you're better off by working hard, don't say anything, right? Like, and we don't have the tools. And then personally, probably we're scared of actually being able to speak up because we're not trained on self-advocacy and we're not trained on self-promotion. We're not trained to speak up. So what we really need to do is base ourselves on data. This is the first time in my life that I'm fighting and I'm working on something that is not against the current, right? Like, normally I'm like, poverty, let's go. Here's like, take a ride, guy, let's serve. The data is with us. Just have to be empowered by the data. So what we are personally doing at Hispanic Star and with World Human is try to make it as easy, as simple as possible for everybody. So in our toolkits, we have a PowerPoint presentation for you to be able to talk to your manager, a PowerPoint presentation to talk to your HR, a PowerPoint presentation to talk to your marketing person. 10, 20, 30 minutes so that you're equipped on how to present a situation as a business opportunity as opposed to a complaint. Because we already have a perception that is a downer. Latinas are seen as you know, like as for their physical attributes and as gritonas, sexy, beautiful. So mostly people look at us as like, oh my God, this comes trouble. So we have to change that perception by actually making sure that we're addressing issues as a business opportunity. Here is the data. Did you know that Latinos are going to be the future? Do you know that inside of this company enabled, you know, like in order for you to be able to attract more people, we probably would benefit from making it more inclusive environments. These are the steps that we can take as an organization, as an employee resource group to make that happen. I think that if we start like, you know, like embracing ourselves with one understanding that we're calladitas te ves más bonitas, unfortunately. 1, 2, we have to be who we are. We don't bite, we don't bark, we're not like other communities. So we work hard, but we have to actually step up to our power through the data that we have. And we're trying to make sure that people are empowered through the data, that we're providing as many tools as possible. You guys are doing these incredible platforms so that people can come and talk and comment and so on. So I think that instead of being fearful, it's better to be part of a community of other people that have gone and talked to their bosses. And how was that experience? When you come to Hispanic Star, you will have all the tools that you need. And if you need more, if there's one thing that is specific about, like, you know, my boss is this one and that one, and I would like to see how we do, we put it together. Because I think that our job as a non-for-profit, and that's why you support us in so many ways, a lot of people, and thank you so much for the support. It's been 5 years, and we feel the love, and we feel that we're making a contribution, so thank you. But whatever it is that you guys need us to do, please just like shout, because we're here to equip people like you so that everybody of us feels comfortable, because every revolution, Sandra, has started with a small group of people that share a dream. And I think that we all share a dream, and we're more than a small group of people that are like tired of being invisible and that really want to be seen and heard and valued. And I think that this is our time.
Thank you, Claudia. So powerful. And we'll make sure to add a link to Hispanic Star and all the great information that you have in our website and in all the tools that we also share, to make sure that, again, like all the information gets out there to as many people as possible, because I think that's critically important. Thank you so much.
Yes.
Any final thoughts before we close this incredible conference? We're good.
I mean, if you're asking me, I would say the time is now. It is a historic opportunity. It is truly a historic opportunity that we have to make history. So take the call. If anything that you have heard today throughout all the conference, if anything that I said, if anything on the theme of the conference, united, we are more. If any of that touched you, you get the call. Don't resist the call. Know that this is a calling, that we are meant to be the transition generation, that this is our time, and that we have to be part of change, because we are the breakthrough generation, and together we shine. So do not resist being together and make everything possible so that we're united, because united we're strong and we're more. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. And we wanted to invite all of our panelists that are still here with us, so that we can all show that together we are more, and be able to take a picture of all of us. And I hope that we could have been able to open up also for our attendees, but we'll do it this way. Laura, I don't know who can take the screenshot. Okay, Laura. Perfect, awesome. Well, this has been incredible. Thank you so much, Claudia. Thank you so much to all of our panelists today. This was just an incredible, and powerful and inspiring, and not only inspiring in terms of, you know, getting excited, but I think it was a call to action from the beginning on all the ways that we can all together do something as of today, as of tomorrow. Like, let's not wait. Like Claudia says, the time is now, and we are definitely a good number that if we all push together will definitely make a difference. Sandra.
Absolutely. And yes, and I just want to invite everyone to, I know I've seen a lot of comments of how do I join, how to be a part of, please join us at unitedlatinas.com, become a member. Let's expand this network. Let's continue to have more of these conversations on these larger platforms and on a month-to-month basis, right? I know Sandy just posted about the Twitter spaces. We need to continue these conversations. It's not a one and done, right? So definitely would love to invite all of you that have put a note and shot an email already. Please join us at unitedlatinas.com. Go to become a member and become part of this growing network so that we can continue to influence and empower other Latinas and amplify the voices so that we don't ever have to question our own courage. We own it when we're walking into a room because we are around so many others that are owning it. So that just rubs off on us. So thank you so much, everyone who participated, and just grateful for all of you.
Thank you, everybody. Have a wonderful rest of your day.
Thank you all. And we do have one speaker that we were not able to share. So we will have that video. We will try to get it up on our YouTube channel. So we will shoot that email out with the link for that as well. We definitely did not want to miss her because we had some technical issues with that. So that is it. Does anybody have any other questions or anything else? If not, please join us and keep on the lookout. Please follow our LinkedIn. We will have events coming up for October already. So
yeah, awesome. Be safe in Florida.
Yes.
Be safe everywhere in the world with everything else that's happening. And see you in October when our next leadership meeting.
Take care, guys. Be blessed. Have a wonderful day.
Bye.